It is 6:08 Mile High City on this Tuesday, January 28th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history, and Donald Trump is your president. Let's kick it off. We got a whole show for you planned of engaging conversations, critical analysis, most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this right here is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Mikey Johnston is going to Washington. The mayor of Denver has been called to testify before Congress on why Denver wants to be a sanctuary city. Oh, I love it. I'm so happy. I mean, get the popcorn out. Let's watch this show. This is going to be fascinating to watch. And I don't think Mikey can turn it down. I think he's being maybe even subpoenaed to testify before Congress. So we'll cover that news. John Decker is going to join us, White House correspondent. More confirmation hearings are scheduled this week. Some big ones tomorrow. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is before the congressional committees, before the Senate confirmation committees. And then Thursday is both Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. So lots of news to cover there. We're also going to talk with Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, about what happened yesterday with the tech stocks. Holy cow, DeepSeek, figuring out how to build complicated AI a lot faster and a lot cheaper than everybody thought, which then sent the NVIDIA stock plummeting because they're the ones who build the chips, and everyone thought you needed to have lots of chips to build this big AI computer. So we'll get the details on that. Ava Flanell and Leslie Hollywood are going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour. Big rally down at the Colorado State Capitol later this morning with Rocky Mountain gun owners, as there's an effort at the state capitol to essentially ban all semi-automatic weapons. It's like over 40% of all guns, including like semi-automatic handguns. What most people use, like if you own a Glock, that could be on the chopping block here in the state of Colorado. So today, hearings begin in the Colorado State Senate. Big rally at the state capitol. And Ava Flanell, Leslie Hollywood, co-founders of We the Second, are going to join us to give us the details on that. And then could DJT serve a third term? Well, there's a member of state. Is it State House? Or is that an actual? No, it's a member of Congress.
A member of Congress.
Member of Congress that wants to introduce.
Has this idea. That's fun.
Make Billy's life so much happier.
No, it's just, I mean, to preview the conversation, it's interesting the approach to the Constitution recently. It's as far as I'll go with this one. We'll save it for later.
Oh yeah,
super interesting.
Be a fun one.
The approach to that document that we have held somewhat sacred recently, until now. Now everything changes. So it's curious. It's curious why the reverence for the document is somewhat conditional. So we'll talk about it.
We'll get into that and more. First, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Jeff and Billy, in China, I think it's the year of the snake I read this morning. So Billy's going to be excited about that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm all over that.
I know.
Starbucks has cups. There's stuff at TJ Maxx. Build-A-Bear has special. I'm all over this. I can give you a long list of stuff that is, that's the year of the snake stuff. Yeah, this is fantastic.
Wait. I love it, man. I thought of you. 19 degrees and clear in Denver. Expecting a high of 44. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, a congressional committee has called on Denver Mayor Mike Johnston to testify at a committee hearing about sanctuary cities. The House Oversight and Government Reform Committee sent a letter to Johnston along with the mayors of Chicago, New York City, and Boston, all the lefty cities, identifying them as cities that refuse to fully cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. They should throw in Minneapolis in there as well. The committee said it's launching investigations into sanctuary jurisdictions and their impact on public safety. The letter also requested documents and communications related to their city's sanctuary policies. The hearing is scheduled for February 11th, and the mayor must confirm their testimony by February 4th. Hey, here's one of the left's favorite guys about 18 years ago talking about sanctuary cities.
Would you allow these cities to ignore the federal law regarding the reporting of illegal immigrants and, in fact, provide sanctuary to these immigrants?
The reason the cities ignore the federal law is the fact that there is no funding at the federal level to provide for the kind of enforcement at the federal level you need. Pick up the New York Times today. There's a city not far across the river from my state that imposed similar sanctions. And what they found out is, as a consequence of that, their city went in the dumps, in the dumpster. Stores started closing. Everything started to happen. And they changed the policy. Part of the problem is you have to have a federal government that can enforce laws. This administration has been fundamentally derelict in not funding any of the requirements that are needed even to enforce the existing
So,
law.
Senator Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
There you go.
Enjoy your trip to Washington, D.C., Mikey Johnston.
That's right. Wonder if he's going to wear any Broncos gear, you think?
He'll dress like the cowboy he wants to be.
He'll wear a sweater. All right. That should be, you're right. Get your popcorn out. The DEA arrested 2 people and seized about 130,000 fentanyl pills in a raid at a Denver apartment complex on Monday. Officials say both suspects were in the country illegally and had ties to Mexico-based Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels. Investigators also found cocaine, heroin, and meth in addition to fentanyl pills. Drug charges are pending. These arrests come just a day after the DEA raided a makeshift nightclub that was just masterful in Adams County early Sunday morning. House Speaker Mike Johnson suggested Monday that he's open to California's wildfire recovery aid being linked to the Golden State adopting voter ID laws. I think that's fair. The idea allows follows DJT's comments during his visit to fire-affected areas in L.A. Johnson criticized California's handling of elections, citing 3 close congressional races that Republicans lost last November. Only took them 2 months to count the votes, maybe more. DJT has signed a number of executive orders that ban any diversity-related programs in the military. Trump signed 2 other orders, including one that reinstates those who were discharged for refusing the pandemic vaccine, and one that bans those who identify as transgender from serving in the armed forces. Scott Bessent is confirmed as the next Treasury Secretary. On Monday, the Senate voted 68-29 in approval of the former hedge fund manager. Hey, Google says it will change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America in Google Maps. The company said Monday that it's just waiting on the info to be updated in the U.S. Geographic Names System after 47 changed the name last week. Love it. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at Lair Fireplace. Patio.com. 18 in Highlands Ranch, 17 in Westminster, 19 in Denver. It is, let's see, it's Tuesday. Yeah, Jeff and Billy continue.
You guys watch the debate. Right. He has, quote, concepts of a plan.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very pleasant January weather for Denver in the Front Range for today and tomorrow. Highs will be in the 40s to near 50 degrees or so today. Teens and low 20s tonight, mid to upper 40s with increasing clouds Wednesday. Now, overnight Wednesday into Thursday, The northern edge of a storm in New Mexico will clip Denver with a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday, cloudy and a little cooler. Back to fair dry weather again for Friday and into the start of the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
This is like the walk-up music for Mikey Johnston as he heads to Congress. He is getting called to answer some questions. Fox 31 reporting Denver being investigated for sanctuary city status by U.S. House Oversight Committee. Congressional leaders are calling upon Denver's mayor to testify at an oversight hearing for the city's alleged refusal to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement and U.S. immigration law. The U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform announced Monday it is investigating sanctuary jurisdictions in America and the jurisdiction's impact on public safety and the effectiveness of federal efforts to enforce the immigration laws of the United States, according to a letter from the committee sent to Denver Mayor Mike Johnston. The committee is also calling upon mayors of New York City, Chicago, and Boston to testify on the same matter. Sanctuary cities are jurisdictions that have announced limits on how much they will cooperate with federal agencies' efforts to deport undocumented immigrants. Some cities take it one step further and solidify the designation through an ordinance, but Denver has not done that. These jurisdictions take it upon themselves to decide what laws they will and will not abide by, all for the purpose of shielding removable aliens, especially criminals, from federal law enforcement, the letter sent to Johnston states. 2019 law cited as making Denver a sanctuary city. The Oversight Committee's letter said Denver is considered a sanctuary city under Colorado law, referencing a 2019 measure signed into law, protect Colorado residents from federal government overreach. And because Johnston confirmed that he was prepared to go to jail to protect illegal aliens from federal immigration authorities, Representative James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, announced the investigation on X. On his first day in office, President Donald Trump took decisive action to restore the rule of law. It is now imperative that our immigration laws are enforced across the country and that criminal aliens are swiftly removed from our communities, Comer wrote. Last week, Johnston said in a statement that, among other things, Denver will cooperate with immigration and custom enforcement agents in cases of violent criminals. The city will also notify ICE of pending release if the federal agency requests that notification. However, Johnston said Denver will not aid ICE agents in a mass deportation sting that drives terror into the hearts of Colorado immigrants, regardless of their legal status. He said, because of this, Denver police officers will not detain people for ICE and will not support non-criminal immigration enforcement actions. The Denver mayor responded to Congress by issuing a statement about the request for his testimony. He writes, the most helpful thing congressional Republicans can do now is fix our broken immigration system. While they work on that, we will focus on running the cities that manage the consequences of their failure to act. Holy cow. Mayor Mikey Johnston's might be heading to Washington, D.C.
Yeah. It'll be nice TV time to him. It'll definitely raise his profile. But what they going to do? What possible remedies do they have at this point? Other than calling him in front of Congress,
right,
and making him say stuff and say, okay, now you're testifying. What's the remedy beyond that? And remember, in the Trump administration, he advised several former advisors not to show up, to behave when given a congressional subpoena.
Yep.
Steve Bannon went to prison for it, and a couple others, So Navarro, another one. So, okay, Johnston's at least not taking the Trump administration advice, which is don't show up. Okay, that's great. So he shows up. Yep. And they're going to do what? What are the consequences? They're going to talk to him and do an investigation. But I'm wondering, what is the mechanism? Because obviously they want something to happen. What is that something, and how are they going to make it happen?
So Donald Trump's administration has said that they will criminally investigate any public officials who interfere with federal immigration mass deportation efforts.
Okay, but is just not cooperating with them interference? Or is that just not cooperating? And then what are they going to do with it?
I would see it as interference. You don't see it as interference?
No, because interference to me, here's the idea, is interference to me would be preventing something from happening. Is the idea is you're taking active steps. Not participating is just going, okay, I'm going to watch you do it. The idea being that there's a difference between pass interference and just watching the guy run down the field and watching him catch the ball. That's what I feel that Mayor Johnston has taken, and that's where I think the sanctuary designation is okay, we're going to watch you. We're just not going to play defense nor offense. We're just going to watch you run down the field with the ball. I don't see the mechanism legally for interference here. And that's what I think. This sounds good, and this is going to be great, and a lot of people are going to run around cheering, but I can't figure out what the end game is. Do they really believe that they are going to be able to jail Mayor Mike Johnston? Because I feel that's where this is going. I feel that's the end goal of MAGA. They want to put him in jail. And I'm curious, where's the legal mechanism for that? And then what happens if that is true?
So I see it differently. I'm watching all of these efforts to try to stop Donald Trump's very legal effort to remove illegal immigrants here. So what do I mean by that? Denver Public Schools preparing for lockdowns if ICE agents show up or federal immigration officials show up. They're going to lock down the schools. They're publicly saying they will not cooperate with ICE. Originally, the mayor saying, I will deploy Denver police to stand at the county lines to prevent federal immigration officials from entering the county of Denver. Now, he's walked that back, but that's where he originally started. Then he said, well, I'm willing to go to jail. And last week we had George Brockler, who reminded us that Mike Johnston's wife is a prosecutor.
Yeah.
And so maybe the original bluster that I would say resulted, or that came about because, Mike Johnston's a progressive Democrat and he's dealing with Donald Trump, who's a Republican. So I'm going to stand up against you. And his wife going, well, maybe you don't want to do this because he has a lot of power to criminally prosecute you if you do this. So what I'm watching him do is walk it back. These mayors in these cities, San Diego's become a super sanctuary city. Denver, Chicago, New York's changing its tune, but those cities have openly said that they will defy the federal government when it comes to illegal immigration and mass deportations. So there has to be a consequence for that. You can't just be like, well, no, we're just going to essentially allow an invasion force to just live in this city, in this country.
What about states' rights? Have we abdicated that? We no longer advocate for the states, their own self-determination. Are we not in that? Because that's the argument we have for the abortion laws. I mean, are we looking at that? Are we saying that, I'm real curious as far as where this goes, because there's another set of sanctuary cities and counties all across the U.S., and I don't think we've thought that all the way through either.
I don't see them the same at all. because the federal immigration has to do with people that should not be in this country legally being provided government resources, safe haven in the United States. That is a violation of federal law. There is no federal law forcing states to embrace abortions. And the idea that keeping our border safe, keeping our nation safe is on the same level as abortion law. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I'm in the
That's
same.
fair. What do we do
place.
what do we do with the 2,000 or plus counties in several states that have declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries? What do we do there?
Again, I don't see them as the same. The Second Amendment is constitutionally protected. You have no constitutional right to enter this country illegally.
No, but they've declared themselves a sanctuary city. If the federal law changes, we've heard over and over again from these cities and states, they will not help enforce federal law because they've declared themselves sanctuaries. Same thing.
Oh, no, I don't see them as the same thing at all.
No, not
because
at all.
the issues are different.
Why?
You're looking at it as the act of it, the I'm being disobedient as being the same thing. Therefore, they're the same, whether it's illegal immigration or abortion or the Second Amendment. The issues are markedly different. And as a result of that, you cannot violate federal law when there's no constitutional right to illegal immigration and say, well, I'm the same as a Second Amendment sanctuary city.
Yeah, we have restrictions on our Second Amendment rights already. So I disagree. We have restrictions on that. So the idea that the Second Amendment covers everything, I disagree with. And what I'm asking about is the legal enforcement mechanism of violating a federal law. That's where we are. If the federal law says X, whether it be with immigration or with guns, does that mean the people that have declared themselves and run sanctuary cities, counties, and states should be arrested? What's the legal mechanism and function there? I understand that we talk about, you may think one is different than the other,
yes,
but it's still a declaration of not wanting to enforce a federal law. And so what is the punishment there?
Help me understand the Second Amendment sanctuary cities that are openly violating federal law.
I'm not saying they're violating federal law now. I'm saying if Democrats get back in control, look at what's happening. We're going to talk today, later on, about gun rules and regulations that are coming for Colorado. If you think the Democrats that control Colorado, if they get in charge in Washington, there's nothing. If they hold the White House in both chambers of Congress, we know they're going to try to strengthen gun laws. And when they did during previous administrations, especially the Obama administration, we had thousands of counties in several states declare themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries. Now that, again, I'm just asking, what is the legal mechanism and function to force either those Second Amendment sanctuary cities and states or the sanctuary cities and states dealing with immigration in order to enforce the law? What's the legal mechanism? How do you hold them responsible for it? I
think you would have law enforcement and city officials gladly go to prison in order to defend the Second Amendment.
I know, but the issue is I don't think the Democrats can put them in prison. Just like I don't think the feds can put Mike Johnston in prison. That's what I'm curious about.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they can come in and force you to enforce a federal law. I think there's some parameters on that, but I'm not certain they can. Because if they can, then what happens to states' rights? Then aren't there a whole litany of things the federal government can then force you to do? So if we're talking about
federal
rights,
law is supreme over state law in America,
yes.
Right? So that's going to exist above any type of state law. But there's a good question as to whether or not federal law needs to weigh in on all these things, right? So if you go back to the Constitution, the federal government has very limited powers as to what it should do. One of them should absolutely be protecting our border from an invasion that's taking place, okay? But other things like Second Amendment restrictions, come on, the federal government, I don't think should be involved in that. States should be able to decide that.
Couldn't I say that American citizens are using our firearms to kill a heck of a lot more of us than illegal immigrants? So if we're talking about actual impact on lives and death, I mean, again, I'm just trying to make the devil's argument here, okay? Right. I'm just saying, if we're talking about the impact I would argue that there are a whole lot of families here that say the impact of someone walking into a mall, a grocery store, a place of business, their school, has really directly impacted their family a hell of a lot more than someone that has come across the border, even though there have been taxes and other things that have gone to support them.
10 million. Yeah. No,
Yeah, but 10 million,
I consider that an invasion.
But again, I understand that. But how many Americans have we lost due to the illegal immigration versus the gun violence? It's going to be not even close if you put it there. I understand the idea of illegal immigrant crime, but we're killing ourselves at a heck of a lot higher clip than the illegal immigrants are. They got a lot of work to do to catch up to us. So if we're talking about impact directly, I'm not certain that's the best argument.
We're not just talking about impact. We're talking about roles and responsibilities. Here, to that point, Andrew agrees with you, saying great points, Billy. Funny how immigration shouldn't be a states' rights issue, but abortion, gun rights, and white boy DEI all should, saying I'm a typical Republican. Because, Andrew, there are limited powers to the federal government. The federal government isn't supposed to, according to the Constitution, weigh in on everything that takes place in states. It has enumerated powers. And one of those powers is protecting the border. Abortion, gun restrictions, DEI, like you point out, Andrew, are not constitutionally given powers to the federal government. Those are to the states. It gets to enumerated powers. Let's go to the phone lines. Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. I think there might be some confusion about this, what the responsibility is of a local government like Denver. The law says that state law enforcement does not have to perform the role of federal law enforcement. That's the bottom line.
I agree with you on that.
Pardon me?
I said I agree with you on that.
Yeah. So in this case, it's simply a matter of Denver and San Francisco and whomever saying, go ahead and round them up. Go ahead. But we're not going to be playing the role to do all this work. And they have that right. That's right in the law. They're just not going to participate in that. And so that's all there is to it. I mean, and that's what
Tony,
basically Denver's saying.
This is the sidestep that Jared Polis is all of a sudden trying to do, where he's like, oh, no, we're not a sanctuary state. But in both 2019, 2021, and 2023, he signed into law specific prohibitions on law enforcement working with the feds, reporting back to the feds. This isn't just, well, you feds and you immigration officials, you guys go get the illegal immigrants and call us if you need help. Meanwhile, we're going to go work on local crime, that type of thing. No. Jared Polis specifically prevented law enforcement from coordinating when they had ICE detainers on people that they arrested in the state. And so that it's not just, oh, go do your thing, you do our thing. No. There were specific blocks on local law enforcement working with ICE.
All right. I'd have to look at that personally and make sure that I had the same interpretation you did. But there is a financial reason that he might have done that, and that is it costs a lot of money to round these guys up, put them into jails, and then process them in and out. All of that, and anybody, Denver police, Littleton police, Douglas County police, they may be saying, we don't have the budgets to be the ones to do the rounding up. I think I told you, I talked to half a dozen Douglas County cops about this and asked them, how do you feel about the idea that you could be sent out to a construction site to round up the husband and then off to a memory care unit to round up the wife where she's working and then go to a school and round up the children? 100% said, ain't doing it. I'm not
But
going to be
Tony,
involved
I don't
in
think
that.
they're being asked to do that. What Mike Johnston is being called before Congress to testify for are specific efforts to interfere with federal immigration officials.
All right, that was the language. Again, I think I heard you. I was listening to you read Mike Johnston's letter to them about interference. That may be that's his language. And I think pretty quickly, when they get a witness in there and they can sit down and say, well, we're actually not interfering. We're simply saying we're not going
Tony,
to use our police
you have to admit
department
that's
to enforce.
a change. That's a change because Mike Johnston originally said he would order Denver police to line up at the Denver County line,
and he backed
to
off
block.
that. You're right. He had to back off. He had to back off of that because he has backed off of that. I think initially he came out and not well advised. He made this statement. We'll block their efforts. I think now everybody's backing off, and I think you're going to find all these mayors of these various cities basically just saying we're not going to be involved in the roundup and then incarceration and all of this because of the cost. Remember, the guy that's running this whole program, I can't remember his name, he's asked for $88 billion, and that's for him. He's not saying I need $88 billion to give Denver police more money and to give San Francisco police more money. He's asked for $88 billion on his own, and our police departments are basically saying we are not going to be getting into that game because we don't have the time. The average roundup takes, if you're rounding up one guy, ideally you're doing it with 3 cops. Not 1, 3. And that's what none of these police departments want to be involved in. And if they're really
I don't see, Tony, I just don't see right now the Trump administration asking local law enforcement to do that work. What you've seen from the DEA images that Stephen Tubbs shared with us yesterday is that the federal agencies are finally doing this work. They just don't want cities and states interfering. They want to cooperate, but that doesn't mean that local police are the ones doing the roundups. Tony, I really appreciate the call. We got to get to some of these others. Frank, Denver, good morning. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Isn't it so sad that we see the efforts to try to have law enforcement, which should be a common interest of both political parties, thwarted by the special interest of one party over the other under the guise of states' rights? And what I mean by that is that I think the feds under Trump tried to say to the local police, if you have somebody that has already committed some type of crime, violent or otherwise, that you have them in the prison, it's a lot safer for everybody involved. The police, the federal cops coming in to take over the person, and the risk to the community if the person is let go or not informed. And we're asking you to turn those people who've already been convicted of a local crime or being held for a local crime, federal or other or state, to us if they have an illegal status, to be transferred back out of the country, which is the federal law. It would seem that would make so much more common sense rather than the local police, or not the local police, but the local political people who, for political reasons, are taking this stance to say, we're going to oppose you under states' rights, which will have to be argued out in court. But my God, look at the state of this country right now.
I mean, Frank, I agree with your point. And you have to remember, these are the same folks, the folks that wanted sanctuary status, right? And to break the bounds between local law enforcement and federal immigration officials, same people that wanted to defund the police, that believe that law enforcement is inherently racist, that want to take away the guns of law-abiding Second Amendment people out there. That's their mentality, is that law enforcement are always the problem, and we need to put lots of restrictions on them. Yeah,
Frank? I think it's great that Mike Johnson is married to a lawyer who will probably provide him, since she's an officer of the court, with wise counsel on what he should probably do in this
Frank,
situation.
I think you're exactly right. I appreciate the call. Frank's line will be open. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. John Decker coming up to give us an update on the pending committee hearings for Trump's cabinet. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Governor Greg Abbott has deployed the Texas Tactical Border Force to the Rio Grande Valley, surging more than 400 additional soldiers, C-130s, and Chinook helicopters to help Border Patrol agents secure the U.S.-Mexico border. Abbott saying Texas finally has a partner that will protect American citizens against illegal migration in President Donald Trump. For the past 4 years, he said Texas held the line against the Biden administration's border crisis. The Tactical Border Force is part of Abbott's border security mission. Under Operation Lone Star, Texas apprehended more than 530,000 illegal migrants, arrested over 50,000 criminals, and seized more than 622 million lethal doses of fentanyl, which is enough to kill every man, woman, and child in the United States, Mexico, and Canada combined. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, saying the Pentagon will pursue an Iron Dome-style missile defense system for the U.S., similar to that of Israel, which blasts ballistic missiles out of the sky with an accuracy rate of about 90%.
Today, there are more executive orders coming that we fully support on removing DEI inside the Pentagon, reinstating troops who were pushed out because of COVID mandates, Iron Dome for America. This is happening quickly.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
All right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. More confirmation hearings are scheduled this week for President Trump's cabinet picks. Joining us to give us the details, White House correspondent John Decker. Good morning, John. Thanks for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
So what do we got on deck today and this week with Trump's cabinet picks?
Well, it's this week. No one on deck today, but this week, three of the most controversial choices for Donald Trump's cabinet will have their confirmation hearings. Among them, Kash Patel, who's Donald Trump's choice to be the next FBI director. Tulsi Gabbard, that's who Donald Trump would like to see as the director of national intelligence. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., that is President Trump's choice to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. They will have their confirmation hearings Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. And we saw this past Friday, sometimes it takes a little extra help to get over the finish line. And in the case of Friday, it was a 50-50 vote, but President J.D. Vance broke the tie on Pete Hegseth's nomination to be the next Secretary of Defense.
Now, John Decker, my read of kind of conservative blogs and X is that Tulsi Gabbard may have the hardest time. What's your read?
I agree with that. I agree that Tulsi Gabbard likely will have the most difficult time. You know, there are some Republican senators that are waiting to see how she performs in her confirmation hearing before indicating publicly how they will vote on her nomination. But if I had to bet of all of the Donald Trump's choices, that is the one that likely has the most difficulty in terms of getting confirmation.
Well, we're going to be carrying a lot of those confirmation hearings live here on the Jeff and Bill Show over the next few days. But John Decker, White House correspondent, thank you so much for giving us some insight. We appreciate your time this morning.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
So it's good to hear that my read and his read are the same. There's Republican concerns about Tulsi Gabbard, some of her past comments around Syria, those types of things. Now, out of all these people, only one of them has come to the Western Conservative Summit, not just once, multiple times. I've spent a lot of time with 3 days, multiple years in a row, and that's Tulsi Gabbard. And I don't have any concerns at all about Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, I'm concerned about just lack of national intelligence and just, again, this is a topic for another day. This is not something we should do now. But I am confused about Donald Trump talking about taking away all the DEI and going for a merit-based hiring system. And then you look at his cabinet. It's weird. That is very strange.
I think you can, if you look at it from the perspective of, I want somebody that's come up through the ranks and is going to continue the way things are currently run, then yeah, I think you can make that argument. But if you really want a change agent, I think they're totally qualified.
But how are they qualified? They haven't, I mean, again, haven't done the job. They haven't done anything at that level. They haven't been involved in understanding how that community works or any of it. They haven't done, I understand change agents, but you can get change agents. Here's the idea.
Qualified change agents.
But how qualified? I don't understand qualified. It's the idea. I mean, you normally when you're putting a NFL coaching team together, you look at other people to run the thing that have been coaches before, that have been assistant coordinators, that some sort of coach. None of these people have coached at this level.
Tulsi's been an elected member of Congress. She's served her country well. She's been, I think, connected with the intelligence agencies through her congressional work. I don't see
she's done no work as far as the intelligence community. She's been connected to it.
She hasn't worked,
but
directly
she's been
in it.
No, I know, but that isn't that an issue. I mean, I understand that we just want to disrupt and change, but okay. The issue is that doesn't mean qualified. That's the issue, is that none of these people, if you would take names off of resumes, would you throw them up on there? I mean, if you would have started a couple of months ago and said, you know, I kind of think that maybe Donald Trump to fill his cabinet position might take a weekend host on Fox, maybe for Secretary of Defense. Someone would have called in and said I have Trump derangement syndrome, that I'm an idiot. But what happened? Again, this is a topic for another day. We need to go back to sanctuary cities, but this is a topic for another day. The idea that he comes out talking about merit and on a merit-based system none of these people would rise to the top. You can have them if you want the change agent. Okay, but don't pretend they hit the qualifications. And again,
I think
that's
you're
fine.
looking at through the lens of somebody who is a career company man coming up through it and going, that's the most qualified person because they have done all of the career work to get there. I see them as qualified in a totally different way, but we can get to that and more because we have You Choose the News. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Wow, Billy, we have lit up the text messages, including state senators are texting me.
Yeah, right.
Constitutional
Morning,
provisions.
senators.
Thank you, Mark Baisley.
Yeah,
We're going to
morning.
get back to that debate, but this is the moment of the morning where we take a little pause for 11.
Yes. This is the point of the show that we get a little silly. And yes, those in charge have left us unsupervised. So we do You Choose the News, America's favorite fake radio news game show. We scour the interwebs for moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans and then give them even more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? Well, we talked about it earlier. Nobody's paying attention. They're not going to wake up for about another 8 or 9 minutes. So we are going to take full advantage of that opportunity, just like when your parents went out of town and you were a teenager. Sorry about that. Both Jeff's parents and my parents. Just saying their stories there. But alrighty. Now, Blake Olson is going to be joining us from the newsroom. And here are our stories today, gentlemen. Headline number 1, immigration chills city residents. Headline number 2, learning through challenges. Headline number 3, like the annual migration of birds. And headline number 4, start with their clothing. Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir.
Let's do the migration of birds.
Yes, like the annual migration of birds. You know, it's always going to eventually come back to home. A 33-year-old man who has been banned from every Walmart in the state of Ohio was recently arrested shoplifting from a Walmart in Columbus, Ohio. That's weird. Just like he came back to the scene of the crime. Yes, on January 14th, 33-year-old Seth Stiers took 2 duffel bags and stuffed them with additional merchandise in the Walmart in Columbus and then ran out of the rear fire exit without paying, because that's what he do. Investigation revealed that he had been issued formal trespass notices back in December of 2023. He signed, acknowledged, and stipulated that to avoid some punishment, he would be banned from all Walmart retail locations in the entire state. Strangely enough, when they say, you're banned, there doesn't seem to be much enforcement mechanism there. So I don't
Ohio State fans.
I saw the fact that he's like,
stuff they
sure,
do.
sure, I'll sign it. I won't go in any Walmart, and there's no way for them to enforce it. Tells you how much that ban really works. Yeah,
really.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
All right, Blake Olson, your choice, sir. Immigration chills city residents, learning through challenges, or start with their clothing.
Learning through challenges.
Yes, learning through challenges. It can be rather difficult. Now, recently, the Pleasant Hill Community Association had to cancel an upcoming event because of threats of potential violence. Yes, men, women, children of all ages. It's sad that the planned learning about gangs and information session scheduled for St. Mary's School was canceled because of potential gang violence. The Pleasant Hill Community Association wanted to let people know about gang violence and how to prevent your kids from getting into gangs. And the gang said, how about we show up and tell you more about the violence? So, yes, they have canceled the learning about gangs informational session. But at the end of the day, we can all agree that we've all learned something about the gangs.
They had some good props for the meeting, didn't
Yes, exactly. So I was like, oh, the gangs are interested. Would like to show up.
they? This is what a gang member looks
yes,
like.
Exactly. Yes,
These
this
are
is
the
called,
weapons that they use.
This is called a drive-by.
That reminds me of when we went to the TDA Aurora apartment complex, and we're like, reports are that you've been taken over by TDA gangs. And they're like, yeah, right there.
Right there. There they are. Yes. Yeah. So it's one of those things.
They don't exist.
Yeah. It was a code violation. Alrighty. Jeff Hunt, final choice this morning, sir. Immigration chills city residents, or start with their clothing?
Let's do with the immigration chills.
Yeah.
City.
Immigration is chilling city residents. We're traveling to the wonderful city of Las Vegas, Nevada for this one. And ICE was spotted. Border Patrol trucks going in and around the city of Las Vegas. On social media, it went wild. People are like, watch out, watch for the black and white truck. Big, giant shield on the side. It says ICE. Yes, but that's not all it said. It also said Las Vegas Ice Cream Patrol. It was an ice cream truck. Billy Settlemeyers, owner of Las Vegas Ice Cream Patrol, says ICE doesn't use, or Border Patrol doesn't use trucks from 1985, nor do they play the tinkly little music that we're driving around in. But yes, last week a person posted video of Settlemeyer's black and white truck, and it is black and white striped truck driving into the neighborhood with the caption, please be on the lookout for the ICE enforcement in your area. They're trying to get people to come outside, and they're pretending this to be ice cream. This is so sick at the time. The Las Vegas Ice Cream Patrol is completely innocent, not associated with immigration enforcement at all. He said he wanted to build something creative for his community to be clean and approachable. Now, not so much. The woman that eventually posted the video said she's sorry and has apologized on Facebook, but we all know how that is going to happen. Nobody's going to pay attention. So, yeah, his ice cream business is going to hurt for a while. Yeah, that's it. Back to you, Jeff. We're all done.
All right, we'll continue the debate about illegal immigration as well as Colorado's number one again.
Ooh,
in car thefts.
Ah, crap.
And the guy who's the chief law enforcement officer now wants to be governor.
Because he's done such a good job keeping the car thefts from happening.
Where's George Brockler? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You woke up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's our president. We're off and running. We got a whole show planned for you of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Colorado's number one. Colorado's number one in auto thefts. Again. Thank you, Phil Weiser.
Yeah, good job. Oh, man.
Fox 31 reporting a recent study found that Colorado is one of the worst U.S. states to drive in, worse than California, New York, and any other state when it comes to auto theft.
Now, understand that means two things. One, you can't drive. I'm just going to use the royal we here. That when you're saying that the people in front of you are awful on the roads, yes, you're right. Yes, we are horrible drivers as a whole in this state. We do very, very, very stupid things on the road over and over and over again. Sometimes, friend of the show, Susan Phelan, helps us out and talks to you about the dumb things we've done in the morning and smashed into each other. So we appreciate her work and everybody else over at Total Traffic. But yeah, the auto stuff thing is a big deal, especially because Professor Phil said that we had to understand most of these people were doing it to sleep in the cars, and we really shouldn't do anything until they stole 3, which is weird. When you tell the criminals how much of the crime they can do, they tend to meet those expectations. Oddly enough, don't know why we would think any otherwise, but okay, that's fine. And I wants to be governor.
And I just want to remind the people of Colorado, you could have had it so much better. Okay, we've all seen the George Brockler press interviews now since he's district attorney of Judicial District 23, how awesome it is. The new sheriff's in town. If you're a bad guy, here's a map on how to drive around our district because we are so committed to law and order. We're going to protect the innocent citizens of our communities. No, top priority, right? You saw that. We could have had that across the entire state. Instead, the people of Colorado picked a law professor who I don't even think had ever set foot in a courtroom, who literally said, we'll finally get around to arresting them on the second or third car theft. You could have had it, people. You could have had George Brockler. He's still around. He's in my district. I'm good. I got Georgie. He's protecting our family and keeping us safe. I love it because he represents Elbert County, but the entire state of Colorado could have had George Brockler instead. We are now number one. We're going to get into this more because there's a lot more with regards to driving and road conditions and all this stuff this study found. You're not going to miss it. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 19 degrees, clear in Denver, expecting a high of 46. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story. A congressional committee has called on Denver Mayor Mike Johnston to testify at a committee hearing about sanctuary cities. The House Oversight and Government Reform Committee sent a letter to Johnston along with the mayors of Chicago, New York City, and Boston, identifying them as cities that refuse to fully cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. The committee said it's launching investigations into sanctuary jurisdictions and their impact on public safety. The hearing is scheduled for February 11th, and the mayors must confirm their testimony by February 4th. Former President Biden, when he was a senator...
Pick up the New York Times today. There's a city not far across the river from my state. that imposed similar sanctions. And what they found out is, as a consequence of that, their city went in the dumps, in the dumpster. Stores started closing. Everything started to happen. And they changed the policy. Part of the problem is you have to have a federal government that can enforce laws. This administration has been fundamentally derelict in not funding any of the requirements that are needed even to enforce the existing law.
So, Senator Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything. I promise.
Just in case you didn't hear it, I bet you know who that is.
Dude, I couldn't believe that was Selena Gomez.
Yes, it
I
was.
sitting there going, nah.
It was
man,
right
she
after
has
I got off yesterday
changed,
morning.
bro.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm looking at this. I was like, what? She's taking it down. She was upset about the deportation. She's ill-informed, ignorant, has no idea what she's talking about. She was talking about the families from Mexico, and she has no idea that they're criminals and murderers and thieves, rapists.
I thought Benny Johnson had the best take on this. Here you have somebody that was, born in America with very humble means, right? If you go look at her original house, it's small. It's a ranch house, single story.
Like the house I grew up in.
Yep, exactly. Humble means. Dad, from what I understand, was not much around in her life. And so raised essentially by a single mom, rises in America to the point where her house now is worth $5 or $6 million. I think she collectively is worth over $1 billion. Selena Gomez is, or something like that. Yeah. And yet America's the problem.
Yeah, it's America's fault. It's a nice deck on her house, too, especially the second level. Beautiful. I love the floor to ceiling windows. Is awesome. So what did Tom Homan have to say about this?
I don't think we arrested any families. We've arrested public safety threats and national security threats, bottom line. And look, President Trump won the election on this one issue, securing our border and saving lives. What happened on our southern border last 4 years is the biggest national security threat this country's seen, at least in my lifetime, because we got over 2 million known gotaways. We got a 600% increase in sex trafficking. We got a record number of terrorists crossing the border on the terrorist watch list. We have 250,000 Americans dying from fentanyl coming across the open border. We're going to do this job, and we're going to enforce the laws of this country. If they don't like it, then go to Congress and change the law. We're going to do this operational apology. We're going to make our community safer. We're going to save. Once we lock that border on continuous operation, you're going to see fentanyl deaths decrease, illegal alien crime decrease, sex trafficking decrease. It's just all for the good of this nation, and we're going to keep going. No apologies. We're moving forward.
And as one of our great callers, Frank, said, instead of common sense, keeping the public safe, lefty politicians have their own agenda.
Who, for political reasons, are taking this stance to say, we're going to oppose you under states' rights, which will have to be argued out in court.
The DEA arrested 2 people and seized around 130,000 fentanyl pills in a raid at a Denver apartment complex Monday. Officials say both suspects were in the country illegally and had ties to Mexico-based Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels. Investigators also found cocaine, heroin, and meth in addition to fentanyl pills. Drug charges are pending. These arrests come just a day after DEA raided the makeshift nightclub in Adams County early Sunday morning. Huge week in D.C. NBC White House correspondent John Decker on with Jeff and Billy this morning.
No one on deck today, but this week, 3 of the most controversial choices for Donald Trump's cabinet will have their confirmation hearings. Among them, Kash Patel, who's Donald Trump's choice to be the next FBI director, Tulsi Gabbard. That's who Donald Trump would like to see as the director of national intelligence, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That is President Trump's choice to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Police are trying to find at least 3 people who stole a city subway train, went for a joyride, and posted it online. The video shows the trio dressed in all black, including masks, driving an R-train car Sunday night. The New York Daily News says they used black marker to cover the surveillance cameras and may have hit speeds of 30 miles per hour going through at least one station and passing at least one signal. A group of Louisiana lawmakers are asking the NFL to make sure the Super Bowl halftime show is family friendly. Good luck with all of that. The letter expressed concern about past halftime shows with lewd lyrics, suggestive dances, and wardrobe failures. Grammy Award winner Kendrick Lamar is set to headline the halftime show at the Super Bowl on Sunday, February 9th. Chiefs take on the Eagles, of course. It's 18. Just don't watch the halftime show. I never watch it. I haven't watched it in 30 years. It's great. The game is great when you don't watch halftime.
See,
you love it,
dude.
don't
The
you?
one with Snoop Dogg and was it?
That was garbage.
Oh,
Hated that. It's garbage.
I love you. We're disagreeing on this one.
Yeah, we will.
I
love
was
it.
awesome.
It was garbage.
Now the one where the dude
the-
walked through mirrors, that was lame. And then what's her name that jumped off of whatever?
I'll say it until I die. The best halftime show was Gremlins marching band. I think it was Super Bowl 1 or 2. You can't beat that. Just put
what was the
marching
people?
band
The
out
Simpsons made fun of them. The Up with People.
Up with People.
Up with People.
Up with
Yeah.
People.
Yeah,
Oh,
Up
is that
with
what they
Up
do?
with People is the reason that we have the superstar halftime shows. It's their fault.
Up
Yeah.
with people.
Up with
Da,
people.
da, da.
Yeah, because they're the last Super Bowl halftime show that wasn't a bunch of celebrities.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
I forgot about
yeah,
that.
it's all in Living Color.
Yeah.
That In Living Color did this thing where they
Oh.
would have you come over and see live halftime performance during the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
it was
Okay.
the last time they did it with Up with People. There were millions and millions that Living Color siphoned off from them, and the NFL vowed never again to let that happen. The next halftime performance, Michael Jackson. They decided never going to happen again.
That was probably the second best.
that'll sound-
Michael Jackson, probably, but all the rest of them are.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought
they're
the
garbage.
old school hip hop. I thought that was so cool.
I mean, the whole thing. They're all lip syncing, right? And
Of
then they
course.
get then they get 3,000 kids from the city, and they do a dance recital or whatever. they
Who's doing it
do.
this year?
Kendrick Lamar. So, yeah, Kendrick Lamar and I forgot who else.
Gosh, man,
It's
what
garbage.
about the Eagles or just some?
Oh, please. Are you kidding me? People would boo.
The
Oh, yeah. All these young people, they don't know who the Eagles are. They don't know what actual music
Some
sounds like and
Motown,
singing.
Bring back the Temptations. Oh, man,
Instruments.
there
Are
you
you kidding me? It's all lip synced, all fake. Just go
Yeah.
to the bathroom,
And-
go to the kitchen,
and just
talk
a
to your
reminder
family.
that universally for the past at least I want to say 7-8 years, the highest rated portion of the Super Bowl is the halftime show.
Oh, there's no doubt about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's the weird
absolutely.
part.
And I don't know what to say about that other than it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, exactly.
18 in Centennial, 17 in Lafayette, 19 in Denver. It is Tuesday. Jeff and Billy continue.
Personally, I am a man. I am as
Okay.
people say cis man.
That's good,
There
that's
are
good.
people there who they say they're
Me too. I'm
gender
a man.
neutral.
Well,
You are a man. Yes, there are people.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very pleasant January weather for Denver in the Front Range for today and tomorrow. Highs will be in the 40s to near 50 degrees or so today. Teens and low 20s tonight, mid to upper 40s with increasing clouds Wednesday. Now, overnight Wednesday into Thursday, the northern edge of a storm in New Mexico will clip Denver with a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday, cloudy and a little cooler. Back to fair dry weather again for Friday and into the start of the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to Jeff and Bill News Talk 710 KNUS. We all know that ignoring the problem makes it go away. Just ask the Biden administration about what happened with immigrants coming across the border. Yes, it's the rule of object permanence. If you can't see it, doesn't exist. Isn't that right? Well, no, not really. That's why I want to talk to you about my friends at Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Yes, we're going to get a little real here for a second. Ignoring that wound, that sore that you don't think is a big deal can turn into a very big deal because that torn skin and tissue is the perfect place for germ, dirt, bacteria to get inside your body and start having a party. Exactly what it wants to do. Things like slow healing cuts, diabetic ulcers, pressure sores can be incredibly challenging to manage and impact your quality of life. My aunt was suffering with some problems as far as neuropathy and some diabetes. She'd gone to the hospital to get some treatment and developed a wound. It was a small cut on her foot. It wasn't really that big of a deal. It was just basically a little bit near the ankle. It ended up getting infected. She got MRSA. Had to spend days and days. It rolled into weeks inside the hospital and ended up eventually losing a couple of her toes because of it. That's why I want you to talk to my friends at Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Their expert wound care professionals will come directly to your home. Think about that. We're talking about rolling back the clock. When you'd have house calls from doctors, you don't have to get in the car, drive to wherever the doctor is or even the hospital, sit in the waiting room, exposed to all the dirt and germs and stuff we talked about earlier, all the ick. Instead, with Wound Care Associates of Colorado, their professional nurses will come into your home and you get compassionate, comprehensive care. Again, on your time, in your space. They'll assess your wound, they develop a personalized treatment plan, and they provide all the necessary care to heal your wound. That's important. Most wound treatment facilities out there just want to maintain the wound. They don't want to let it get any worse. They're just going to hold it where it is. That's not okay. You wouldn't go to a doctor that says, we're just going to make sure the cancer doesn't get any worse. How about we take it out? How about we fight against it, sir? Could we not? You wouldn't go to a doctor that said, not broken arm. Let's just hope it doesn't get any worse. No, how about we fix it? That's the difference with Wound Care Associates of Colorado. They're about fixing the problem, not ignoring the problem. You'll receive expert care, comfort, and privacy of your own home. It's a tailored care plan that's going to address your specific needs, and it's going to reduce the risk of complications, and they will promote faster healing, which is a game changer compared to other wound care facilities out there. Plus, they're doing house calls. You can't beat it. Contact them today. If you or a loved one is struggling with a chronic wound, visit coloradowound.com for more information and to schedule your in-home visit today. coloradowound.com. When you reach out to them, tell them you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill Show, because we sure do. Sure appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. Jeff, back to you.
That's great to hear, Billy. Let's go to the phone lines. Brian Arvada. Good morning, Brian. What's on your mind?
Hey, morning.
Hey, I must have missed the Mike Johnson news, but I was traveling abroad in the Caribbean this last weekend.
Sounds like you're bragging. I'm a little jealous. I'm just saying that. But congratulations. Glad you're back, man.
I only get one during the winter, so my work time's in the summer.
Oh, man. I'm glad for you. Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thanks. It was well rested time, but I was filling out the locals in there about Trump because inauguration was Monday and we're overseas, and if we get to St. Thomas, and sure enough, there's a port, one of the marina, private marinas is flying the American flag upside down. And by the end of the day, so many people went over there and told them they're not buying anything from there. They're not doing anything with them. They put it down, put it back up the right way. So they have an immigration problem over there in the islands. They said there's a lot of homeless. There's a lot of people coming from countries they don't want there, on boats they don't want there. And so it was kind of a pro-Trump feel. It was crazy. I was expecting to see something different, and everybody's having an immigration problem, not just America. And they are, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, they're proud to think the economy's gonna boost everywhere. So that's just another perspective. Again, I only went to 4 islands. It's not a big
no, Brian,
part of the world.
Why do you think they were originally flying the flag upside down? And who was it again? Was it a shop that was doing that?
No, it was a marina, a privately owned marina. They had a bunch of shops in there where people just leave their boats and stuff. And it was flying upside down on Tuesday morning when we ported, and everyone looked out, and some people were like, yay, stand up against it. I'm like, that's like weird. That's like a military for duress.
Yeah, right.
And people went over there, and there were so many complaints at this ice cream shop, at this other place, that by the end of the day, that flag was flying the right way. So
a lot of people forget this or haven't realized it, especially with America. When you look at our history of immigration, America is the most generous nation in world history when it comes to immigration. Most generous. I mean, there's no way you can go to a lot of these other countries and get in line and get through the same process that we have in this country. So even, could we fix our immigration system, make it a little bit more streamlined? Sure, absolutely. But throughout world history, there's never been a nation like America when it comes to immigration.
Oh, absolutely. They don't treat their immigration population that way. They literally get in a line. They literally almost starve to death. They don't get just free money. And we saw a lot of you go into areas that aren't popular. And we took a little tour with a guide we knew, and he's showing us some of these areas that have just been devastated by crime, and we drive through them. We didn't stop through them, but you see the homeless population there is similar to what you see in Denver. Just people are dying on the street. They're not being taken care of. And so they want it cleaned up for safety and everything else. And people there aren't living there anymore. They're moving out of there, just like we're moving to different states that are, don't accommodate that kind of behavior. Yeah. And I got home late last night and I couldn't help but turn on the TV. And, who do I see on CNN? Ken Sellout Buck. And he's just dogging the immigration fear mongering. And little did we all knew Ken Sellout was going to go be on CNN. And that was his gig all along. Wanted to step down for the people. No, wanted to step down for his pocketbook. And now we know his true colors. It's pretty sad because I used to admire the man.
Brian, and I saw this interesting article in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend that they were interviewing churches that in 2016, 17, remember back then, and I kind of forgot about this, but there was a lot of churches that were like, come, illegal immigrants, we'll give you sanctuary. And in fact, there was a few here in Denver that provided, residential living facilities for illegal immigrants, that type of thing. A lot of these churches that did that back in 16, 17 aren't doing it now, in part because of what's happened to their communities, to their neighborhoods, to their parishioners with the fentanyl crisis that's come in, just the sheer amount of human trafficking that's taken place, the economic costs like you see in Denver, right? Well over $100 million spent on illegal immigrants. And it's affecting these communities. So churches originally going, we're for the immigrant, have gone, gosh, it's been so difficult on our communities with the sheer number of illegal immigrants that have come in under Biden. We might not be participating in the same way we did in 16 and 17.
Oh, you're right. And I totally agree. Newsweek had a pastor on and said that he was sheltering, helping people 4, 5, 6 years ago. He's not anymore because he's seen that and he used some biblical terms of why he's not, Christ was common sense, law and order, and he used some biblical terms and passages about how we shouldn't be supporting this stuff. And I thought it was an interesting take. I mean, I'm compassionate, but we're getting the criminals out first. And when you're perp walking these child molesters and these heinous Venezuelans and whatnot, gang members, I have no compassion for them. When it comes to the next round where we have to decipher, I think we have to use a scalpel and be a little more careful. But the first round of these tattooed up criminals that are killing and hurting our children, get them out of here as fast and as far as possible.
Brian, I don't know you personally. Are you a family man?
Oh, I am. I have 2 teenagers.
Yeah. So I wonder too, what's going through the minds of illegal immigrant families, right? I saw and we had Rory O'Neill talk about this, the deportation centers that are being built in Texas, right? If you're a common sense family person, maybe you came up here because of the opportunity and you were just living quietly, and you now have the threat of those deportation centers and your family may being separated and you don't know what your kids are going. I mean, Brian, I try to put myself in their shoes. I'm getting out of here. And so I think the message that's being sent to illegal immigration families is, if you're a reasonable person, get out while you still can, so that you're not going through that deportation process. I think you'll see a lot of folks self-deport.
Yeah, I do too. Or start filling out the process legally to be a citizen. And I think that there's going to be some compassion in those gray areas. The criminals got to go first, but families that are here, someone like me that's got children, that's working hard, start getting out of the shadows and saying, hey, I want to be a citizen. They're not going to snag you up and throw you in a concentration camp.
Yes, Brian, they will. Brian, yes, they will. Yes, Brian, they will. They will,
Billy,
because
that's part of the problem. That's fear mongering.
No, Brian, I'm not fear mongering. I'm listening to MAGA. MAGA believes that the original sin is crossing the border. That's a crime. Deport all criminals. I have had this conversation on the air with MAGA supporters for at least 6 months, asking over and over again, and almost to a T, they say the original sin is crossing the border. That's a crime. Get them out. It doesn't matter if they commit an additional crime here or not. They do have a gradient of who they view as more violent. But I completely and totally disagree with you that someone that came into the country illegally and hasn't done a single thing wrong since then is not viewed as a criminal by the core supporters of Donald Trump, because that's what I've heard over and over again.
I agree with you. And that's why I'm going, if you're a dad and you got kids and a family here, you're getting the heck out of here. Because I do believe, Bill, that you could end up going through those deportation
and that's what I'm talking about, Brian, is this is what's going to happen. I read a story yesterday, I believe it was on Drudge Report, where a guy is married to a woman from Venezuela. She's here illegally. She has a court date coming up later this year, but it has not been adjudicated yet. She was caught by ICE yesterday and is going to be deported. Or not yesterday, but at least in the recent past. So, yes, just crossing the border and being in the country illegally is viewed as an original sin. And they will and can be deported.
Agree, Billy, but violent is what they're prioritizing. Violent is what they're prioritizing. Let's just clarify that. And so you're right. After they get all the violent criminals out, then, yeah, you're going to have to make a choice. If you're here illegally, you're going to have to make a choice. Do you trust us to trust whoever's in charge to help you stay here, or do you self-deport? Either way, that's the law.
Brian, appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks so much. We're going to work through some of our other calls. Yeah, I know. I was in the Caribbean.
Awesome.
I visited 4 islands.
So
thanks.
jealous.
Yeah, Brian bragging, but we love him.
Didn't bring us t-shirts or nothing. We're printing Brian t-shirts and my t-shirts, but didn't bring us t-shirts.
Let's go to Jacqueline, Nebraska. Good morning, Jacqueline. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Good morning, guys. You are funny today. I'm telling you, I was laughing at the two of you earlier, and Jeff, I tell you. Well, I was in a little store in Sydney, Nebraska on Saturday. It's Catholic Charities. It is called, I won't give the name, but anyway, it's a little Catholic store, and they have used things, used clothing, and I donate a lot. And sometimes I just go in there and browse around. Well, there was a van that was there, a great big van. And when all these women went in there, they were all either from South America. I'm not sure where, because none of them spoke English. But the gals, their sisters, they let them load up as many bags of clothing and shoes that they could haul. They got back out and got into the van. Well, when I was leaving, about 2 blocks from the Catholic store, the sheriff's department here and 2 other cars, there were three vehicles there, sheriff's vehicles, and they were detaining them. They were taking them out of the van. These were all women. The driver was a man. And they put them in the cars. They were being detained. Probably they'd be deported. I don't know how they'd work, but the plates on the van were from Colorado. And Paoli is a little tiny town over here just south of Sydney. And most of the community there now is all illegal.
Now, Jacqueline, I got a question for you. I got a question. This is kind of dovetailing off of Brian's conversation with us. Did any of those women commit a violent crime or act violently in front of you, or did they look as if they are violent or violent gang members of Tren de Agua or anything else? Just on your observation, I'm not asking you to draw an actual conclusion on it, but on your observation, did any of those women look like violent, dangerous immigrant criminals?
Well, one did,
okay,
but the rest of them didn't.
That's fair. And the only reason I want to point that out, just right now, I'll let you continue in a second. The only reason I wanted to point that out is because in our last call, with all respect to Brian, he said that they're going to be focusing on the violent criminals. And while I agree that that is the priority, as he announced, he's correct. It is the priority, but they're going to grab anybody else they can, just as you're showing. They can be, the group of women can be with one woman that could be one part of the violent criminals, and everybody else is going to be swept up. So yes, I agree that Brian was right, and you're right. We're going after violent criminals as a priority, but that's not the only people that are going to be caught up in this one. And anybody that thinks that a person that comes into the country illegally and hasn't done anything wrong since then is going to be allowed any sort of a track for citizenship, I disagree with. I don't think that's going to be what's happened. But continue. Tell us more about what you saw.
Well, that's true. And they were young. Some were young and some were old. There was one that looked pretty rough. Now, I would be very leery of her. But none of them spoke English. And, well, they didn't have to. They just handed them the bags. They went in, filled them up. They went out of there with probably 15 or 20 bags of clothes and stuff. You know, the Catholic Charities is one of the biggest human traffickers in the world. And so was the Lutheran Church. They're responsible for a lot of this hiding business. But, you know, anyone that they see, they're going to pick up. If you don't have legal citizenship or a visa or a passport, you're history. And, you know, anyone, they may start at the top, you know, and take the ones in prison and the gangs and all of that. But anyone that gets in their way, they're all considered criminals. I don't care. Even the children in association are as well. It took my mother 13 years to get her citizenship here in 1948. I don't have a lot of sympathy for these people. I've helped a lot of them over the years, and I've done a lot, and I have had nothing but hell from them. And, you know, the American people come first. My grandchildren live in Denver. They come first. Their safety and their well-being come first. And if these people fall in line and they get caught, well, so be it.
Yeah, now, Jacqueline,
that's the bottom goal.
Now, I understand it took your mother 13 years in order to become a citizen of the U.S. Do you think that people having to take a decade or longer in order to become a citizen actually incentivizes the illegal immigration? Asking a family to wait a decade or longer to come to America, given what some of these families are saying and they're trying to escape, do you think that would incentivize the family to actually seek out illegal immigration or not, in your opinion?
Well, I think that they need to realize that doing it illegal, they will not get citizenship. And that's something that I think Trump is working on. My mother married Dad in 1946 at the end of World War. Dad came home, but my mother couldn't come with him because she didn't have a passport. She didn't have anything. It took her about 2 years to save up the money. It cost money to do that, for a passport and or for a visa. She had to have a job. Every bit of the way had to be lined out, all the transportation and where she was going and everything else. In the meantime, she had my older sister. My sister was born in England. And when Mother came, they had to wait 2 more years. My sister was 6 years old before she got to come to the United States because they didn't have enough money to do all of that. So in the short run of it, my mother had to become a naturalized citizen. My sister had to become a citizen. My sister worked for the federal government. But do you think that if you asked my mom that it wasn't worth it, she'd say, yes, it was. It was worth it because I knew what I was getting.
I think that, Jacqueline, I really appreciate the call. I think that countries have every right to be able to pick and choose who comes into their country. Other countries do it. America has every right to do it. They have the right to build a system that brings in the very best that contribute to the health of that nation as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. All right. Do you know a high school student who has a passion for engaging in cultural and political issues? The knowledge and skills needed to impact the world through civic engagement is an ever-increasing need in today's society. Colorado Christian University is at the forefront of meeting this crucial need, equipping the next generation of competent, convictional Christian leadership in American politics. CCU's degree program in politics, with an emphasis in public policy, prepares students for the complex challenges of modern politics with an unapologetically Christian and foundationally conservative worldview. In this distinct program, students learn how to impact public policy and advance Christian conservative ideas. Colorado Christian University also houses the Centennial Institute, a think tank committed to mobilizing ideas on faith, family, and freedom to strengthen America's future. CCU's mission to produce graduates who impact the world with grace and truth applies in no greater measure than to our politics and public policy program. Apply today at ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. Coming up, Rory O'Neill is going to give us insight into what happened with the tech industry as tech and energy stocks plummeted on Monday. And what is this thing called DeepSeek coming from China? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
You're listening to Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Mexico has received more than 4,000 migrants into the country, according to Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. Sheinbaum saying that the majority of the deportees were Mexican and that she feels Central American nations could also reach agreements with the U.S. to accept illegal migrants from other countries. The leftist leader's comments are a reversal from her previous comments saying her administration had not agreed to the restart of the Remain in Mexico policy by the Trump administration, which would send non-Mexican migrants who had crossed the border illegally back to Mexico while they wait for a court date. Sheinbaum said that the deportations received from the U.S. included migrants sent on 4 different flights. Vaccination bills are popping up in more than 15 states across the nation as lawmakers are looking to create religious exemptions from immunization mandates, establish state-level vaccine injury databases, and increase the amount of information providers must tell patients about the shots. Many see an opportunity to rewrite the policies in their states during President Donald Trump's administration, especially if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is confirmed as the next Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. 40% of Americans consider childhood vaccines important, which is down from 58% in 2019 and 64% in 2001. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. If you're like me, you were like, what in the world is DeepSeek? And what happened to the stock market yesterday? Well, to give us some insight, Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, joins the program. Good morning, Rory.
Yeah, good morning. We were saying, what is DeepSeek and what did it do to my 401k?
Right, exactly. Give us some insight, please.
Yeah, so look, for years, NVIDIA has been a big tech stock saying, look, we're big into AI and chat GPT, and we are developing the best chips in the world, the most sophisticated, and you build these data centers, and they're all going to need extra electric generation to support the power demand, and this is how it goes, and it's a multi-billion-dollar thing. And last week, we heard President Trump alongside 3 tech gurus saying, they're going to spend $500 billion on these kind of tech investments. And then doesn't this company come along, DeepSeek, saying, hey, we just built our own chat GPT and we did it for less than $6 million in under 2 months. We don't need any of that.
And in many ways, we kind of did this to ourselves, right? With some of the restrictions we put on China and their access to chips made by NVIDIA. They've figured out how to do it cheaper, faster without us.
Maybe. We don't really have a whole lot of confirmation. This is their claim. A lot of it has been backed up. It doesn't appear to be as good as ChatGPT. And all this data, by the way, if everyone is now rushing to download the DeepSeek app, just be careful that user agreement we click through, you are turning over your life to China with that one. So,
ooh, good advice. Kind of back into the TikTok world. But go ahead.
They get every keystroke you make in your phone.
Wow, that's a big deal. That's a real big deal. Well, OpenAI has unveiled a new system called OpenAI O3, which seems to be more powerful than DeepSeek, but this hasn't been released to the wider public, right? So is it true that China really is leading now with AI, or what does OpenAI have?
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far yet because this is still an arms race. But the thing that also makes DeepSeek and its AI important is that it's all open source. So it's out there for the world to contribute, change, modify, and they really do have a goal of making this access to AI more affordable, which, that's the way we'd like to see things go. It doesn't seem as NVIDIA is as interested in getting entry-level prices for everything. So, that's also a considerable factor here, is that this is the Chinese option is open source, whereas the other we're seeing is more proprietary.
And that's in many ways to protect China from getting access to our AI technology. Talking to Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. Now, Rory, I had heard that AI was so dangerous. I think Elon Musk even brought this up, that it one day could result in world domination. Look, I have ChatGPT, helps me write emails. It kind of sums some stuff. I haven't seen yet where it's a potential for being dangerous. It just kind of seems like what calculators did for math, AI is doing for essentially English and writing and grammar and stuff like that. Your thoughts?
That's what they want you to think, that it's not dangerous, right? Isn't that the greatest trick of the devil, is convincing you he doesn't? Look, we have heard from Elon Musk about his own doubts about AI. Remember that big tech announcement I referenced last week with Donald Trump and the 3 big tech gurus? Elon Musk was the man not in the room talking about the further development of AI. But it's interesting. This whole business model that we've been hyped on is we need big data centers, and it's going to develop vaccines to cure your cancer and this and that and the other, and we need power, and it's all based on big dollar spending. But if this Chinese model with DeepSeek works, again, that really does pull the rug out from a lot of people here, and that $500 billion investment that was just announced may suddenly not be such a wise investment.
Talking to Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. Thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show, giving us some insight into the tech and energy stock plummet that took place on Monday. Appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, talk to you soon. Thanks.
So, I don't know. Would you buy an NVIDIA stock this morning?
Yeah, I would, because it dropped. And so there might be some profit advantages there, because they're the only ones making a certain type of chip. and certain things will bounce back, but we'll see. I read yesterday that Meta had put together 4 teams of engineers in order to reverse engineer DeepSeek as far as what are they doing and why. Because the advantage to this, again, we talk all the time about competition, and especially disruptive competition. This is yet another example that the U.S., as all the tech bros in Silicon Valley, figured they had already decided the best way to do something. And China came at it and said, I got a different idea. Now, whether or not theirs holds water, we'll see. From what I was reading yesterday, the biggest problem isn't necessarily the chips or the power. It's how it learned so quickly. That's
Right.
what they can't figure out. What is the large learning model? Because we've talked about it before on the show, that the American AI companies are coming to a law of diminishing returns. They have had their AI models absorb so much learning already, they only have a little bit left, and the marginal gains are somewhat negligible, meaning that the AI, until we do something else, isn't going to get smarter. That's why some of these AI companies are asking for writers to write stuff for AI. And then they're paying $15 an hour, which means, of course, they're getting the bestest writers of the whole planet, not the people that failed English in high school. Of course not. So, again, we're going to have to see how this works. How did China teach DeepSeek? That's going to be the real game changer to figure out.
I disagree with Rory a little bit. I haven't seen anything that's like all that crazy impressive. I mean, it's like written speeches and emails for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And the pictures it makes, not that good. I was spent some time in Photoshop yesterday trying to use AI Photoshop to try to change. It wasn't really working. So it was like I wanted to be like, lighten this area, and it put a light bulb there.
Yeah.
Like literally a light bulb.
Yeah,
Like,
that
come
helps.
on. All right. So I'm not that impressed yet. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to a Jeff and Bill show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to Mary, Wyoming. Good morning, Mary.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Going back to the issue on immigration, I want to ask Bill a question. When is enough enough? How many do we have to keep taking? We've had 3 amnesties, which has allowed them to bring their 40 to 60 relatives along with them. When do we get to say enough is it?
Well, I mean, if we're worried about chain migration, I can be a jerk about it just for fun. I mean, I'm not going to poke at it, but Melania's parents are chain migration. When Barron was born, Melania wasn't a citizen. So, I mean, we can use tons of examples. And again, that's anecdotal and informational. For me, it's about reforming the immigration system. I don't have a cap number. I don't know what it is. Am I saying that all the people that are in the country right now illegally should be granted amnesty? No. Would I even be in favor of a large sweeping amnesty? No, not necessarily. I do believe that we do need to investigate them and vet them. But I believe personally that a decade-long process for immigration does nothing more than incentivize illegal immigration. Because if you're in a setting where you think that you need another opportunity, and we're talking about people that are willing to walk thousands of miles to come here, not because, I just want to be able to buy the big giant TV, because they're trying to escape.
Yes, it is.
No, it
yes,
isn't.
it is.
No,
Because,
it isn't, Mary.
yes, it is,
No.
Bill. They
No,
want,
Mary.
it's economic. They want what you have. They covet what you have.
Why are you saying?
In other words, I bet you there would not be the immigration if we started cutting off these benefits.
Why did
they
you
don't
use
get
Mary?
housing,
Mary,
food, shelter?
Mary, again, if they're such freeloaders, why is immigration always raiding workplaces? Okay, but I'm curious this: why did you use the word covet? Why did you land on that word?
Because that's what they do. They covet what we have.
But do you
they
believe
want
covet?
our lifestyle.
But yeah, but you're talking about taking. That's where I have the issue
we
from.
We had to fight. My great-great-grandmother,
why
she
can't
was
they
a
fight?
slave. My dad was in the
Mary,
army.
Mary,
I was
Mary,
a civil rights
I understand.
advocate.
Mary, I understand.
I was
It's not
arrested and spat upon.
Mary,
I paid dues to be here.
Mary,
they do not do it.
Aren't they? Couldn't you argue that they are right now, living in the shadows, picking our oranges,
They shouldn't
going and
be
scraping?
here.
Mary, but you're talking about paying dues. I could argue they're paying dues.
No, that's not dues.
Well, it may not be what you talk
here,
about it.
Period.
It may not
It's
be what you're
they
talking
want.
about. Here, Mary, hang on. We'll discuss this. We'll continue this after the top of the hour because I want to be fair on this one. But I disagree with the idea of covet. You seem to think that this is a closed system, and it's not. It's not. It's not a zero-sum game in the economy.
The debates will continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. some people have said listening to me over and over again is like repeated blows to the head. Just saying, I get that comment, but I appreciate you.
And we're going to dive right back into it. Good morning. It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. I'm Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history, and Donald Trump's your president. Let's get to work and dive back into the phone lines here after the phones and news with Blake Olson. We're going to talk with Ava Flanell and Leslie Hollywood. But first, because Mary's so awesome, we're bringing her back. Good morning, Mary. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, thanks for holding. Oh, no.
Do we have Mary still?
She should be. Well, I've got the line there. Well, I guess we don't. Okay, well, hopefully she'll call us back. Well, not. Okay, that didn't
see
go
if
as
she
well.
calls back. But in the meantime, let's go check out news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. Billy, stay tuned. I've got to name that tune for you coming up.
Oh, man, the pressure. Okay.
Now Jeff can be a part of it, but I don't think he's going to have a chance because he's way too young. So I'll give you a hint there. 20 degrees, sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 46. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the congressional committee is asking Denver's mayor to testify about the city's abject failure to comply with federal law when it comes to illegal immigration enforcement. But Mayor Mike Johnston has already made the city's role in the process quite clear.
We are never doing ICE's job for them or helping ICE in the process of stopping, detaining, or removing people. That's not our job. Our officers have enough to do in the city. They don't need to be doing federal law enforcement's job on immigration.
Teamwork makes the dream work. The letter sent Monday by the House Committee on Oversight and Government asked Mayor Johnston to be in D.C. on February 11th. The mayors of New York City, Boston, and Chicago also received letters from the committee. Johnston fired back in a statement Monday saying congressional Republicans should fix our broken immigration system while local mayors focus on running the cities that manage the consequences of their failure to act. A spokesperson said Johnston is considering the request to testify. Here's what the former president that Johnston supported said about the issue when he was a senator.
Pick up the New York Times today. There's a city not far across the river from my state that imposed similar sanctions. And what they found out is, as a consequence of that, their city went in the dumps, in the dumpster. Stores started closing. Everything started to happen. And they changed the policy. Part of the problem is you have to have a federal government that can enforce laws. This administration has been fundamentally derelict in not funding any of the requirements that are needed even to enforce the existing
So,
law.
Senator Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything. I promise.
That's Selena Gomez, just in case you didn't see it or hear it, upset about the deportation of criminals. She took down the stupid post later. The DEA arrested 2 people and seized around 130,000 fentanyl pills in a raid at a Denver apartment complex on Monday. Officials say both suspects were in the country illegally and had ties to Mexico-based Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels. Investigators also found cocaine, heroin, and meth in addition to fentanyl pills. Drug charges are pending.
That's pretty frightening, you know. I have a 1-year-old, so it's not something you want to hear.
These arrests come just a day after the DEA raided a makeshift nightclub in Adams County early Sunday morning. Those who worked on criminal investigations into DJT are being fired. A letter from Acting Attorney General James McHenry said that they cannot be trusted to faithfully execute Trump's agenda. NBC White House correspondent John Decker joined the fellas earlier this morning. Gigantic week in D.C.
no one on deck today, but this week, three of the most controversial choices for Donald Trump's cabinet will have their confirmation hearings. Among them, Kash Patel, who's Donald Trump's choice to be the next FBI director, Tulsi Gabbard. That's who Donald Trump would like to see as the director of national intelligence, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That is President Trump's choice to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Denver police have arrested a suspect for a deadly shooting that happened earlier this month. 52-year-old Aaron Roybal was shot and killed near South Sheridan Boulevard and West Wyoming Place on January 12th. 18-year-old Giovanni Gonzalez has been arrested in connection with the shooting. Investigators believe the two men exchanged words in a pot shop parking lot on the night of the shooting. A court hearing for Gonzalez is scheduled for tomorrow. A group of Louisiana lawmakers are asking the NFL to make sure the Super Bowl halftime show is family friendly. That's not going to happen. Don't hold your breath. The letter expressed concern about past halftime shows with lewd lyrics, suggestive dances, and wardrobe failures. Grammy Award winner Kendrick Lamar is set to headline the halftime show at the Super Bowl February 9th. Now, I think they should go back to just the marching bands, and how about Gramblin's marching band? Super Bowl IX, the greatest halftime of all time. It was the best, and here they are. And I want Billy to tell me if he can tell me what song they're playing here. This is going to be a tough. This is going to be a tough one. Here comes Grambling. Billy,
I know that
name
song.
that.
No, what is that? Yeah,
Jeff
what is that?
knows
I
it.
can't name it, but I definitely
Come on.
heard it
Yeah, I can't
before.
name the song. I know the
What is
melody,
it?
but I
You're
don't
going to
know.
kick yourself.
Oh, I'm sure I am.
One more
It's always
time,
hard.
Jeff.
It's always hard with the band.
Here we go. Here comes. Hey, you're getting it, Jeff. Jeff may win this. I can't believe it.
I don't know the name of it, but it's I can't get enough of Your Love Baby.
Come on, Jeff. I am proud of you.
Yeah, I know. What is it? That's great.
Can't get enough of your love, baby.
For that one.
Woo!
She was
I'm
a
proud
big
of you,
Barry White
man.
fan.
Barry White should not have brass instruments involved. It's not the right feel. Just saying. Just gives the whole wrong perspective.
You just defeated the music czar
Yeah,
on
that is
this show,
fantastic.
man.
Nicely
Come
done.
on.
Yeah,
Nice
you can't do
job,
that.
Jeff.
You can't do a, hey, thanks for coming back to my place. I'd like to play a little Barry White. Mind if I
Yeah.
get out my trumpet?
They
That's not
made,
gonna
they
work.
they
Not gonna
needed a
work.
little more tubas.
Yeah, they
in
did.
there.
A little
Yeah,
more
right?
bass. A little more bass in
bass.
there. A little more, yeah.
I'm proud of Jeff,
nice. He
man.
did- look
The
at that.
youngster.
Look at the
All
big
right.
brain on Jeff. Nicely done.
Want to thank my mother for that one.
Nice. Bring
Years
back
of
the
driving
marching
around
band.
listening to soul music, Temptations. Barry
Yeah,
White.
she had good taste, man.
Yeah.
17 in Parker, 18 in Arvada, 20 in Denver. It's Tuesday. Jeff and Billy continue. Can't get enough of your love, baby. Yeah. Come on. That's a halftime show.
That is a halftime show.
Steelers won that game, by the way. The Vikings lost again. They haven't won a Super Bowl since. They've gone 4 times and they lose all the time. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Very pleasant January weather for Denver in the Front Range for today and tomorrow. Highs will be in the 40s to near 50 degrees or so today. Teens and low 20s tonight, mid to upper 40s with increasing clouds Wednesday. Now, overnight Wednesday into Thursday, the northern edge of a storm in New Mexico will clip Denver with a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday, cloudy and a little cooler. Back to fair dry weather again for Friday and into the start of the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. She's back. Mary, Wyoming. Good morning, Mary.
Yeah,
thanks for
thanks for
sticking
calling
Good
around.
morning again. I'm still going to go back and ask, when is enough is enough? We do not have the infrastructure to support the ones that are here now. We honestly don't. It affects. There's so much on that, and then if we can, you said if we clean up the laws, we could do something different. But we have these people here now. How many of them get to stay? When can we say enough is enough?
But if the constraints are on the infrastructure, wouldn't that just necessitate more investment into infrastructure? I mean,
with the housing, look at California right now.
Yeah,
it's completely ruined. Do you know how much?
But hang on,
much wood
Mary,
things that we're going to need to be able to put that together?
Yeah, I know, but the immigrants didn't start the fires; they'll burn all the houses
No.
down. I mean, so
You don't know that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
No,
Yes, Mary,
you
we
know
do.
that
And part of
we
the
do have
reason,
some arsonists, and who are they?
I know, but there have been a handful that have been arrested. But we do have the idea of where the fire started, especially in the areas. And I'm not going to get into the biology of what happens.
I agree. I understand.
As far as the plants and stuff that were there, nor should we really discount why California decided to build into those areas that were already designated as fire dangers. Also, the other question that we have, based on how California was built, is everything zoned for single-family housing. I looked into this yesterday, and it was something that kind of shocked me, that the very, very small portion of California is zoned for multifamily dwellings. Part of those single-family dwellings were had to spread into areas that ended up being fire dangers. They had one
because
black
of an influx
community.
of population.
They had one black community, and this started in the 50s, that was built right up against national forest land, which strangely enough likes to burn. So that entire community was taken down. So it's not necessarily because of immigration. And we have a lot of area. And also the other part is, if you want the economy to continue to expand, we do have to have more workers. If our birth rate is going down, the only way to supplement that would be through immigration. I'm not saying illegal.
But you have.
I'm not saying
You-
illegal.
We could
I'm saying
stop
legal.
murdering.
Yeah.
You have to go. Jeff and I are pretty much on the same page. I'm sorry. They made a decision to cross the border.
Yes.
That makes them, I'm sorry, that makes them a criminal.
Okay.
We have laws that said you don't get to choose to walk across our border and come in this country.
I'm not arguing that, but it's interesting that we had a caller earlier today that disagreed with that, though.
Well, that's fine. They
said,
can
I know,
disagree.
I understand it, but yeah, it wasn't their perspective. Yeah.
It's still an illegal act, and they chose it. They made that decision to put their children in harm's way. And then and because they do that, we have to go ahead and accommodate them.
Mary, I agree with you entirely on this one. And I think reasonable people that are part of that illegal immigration population are seeing what's happening, are seeing the deportation centers being built and going, I'm getting out of here. Mary, great call. Sure appreciate it. Before we get to Ava, let's go to Chris Lakewood. Good morning, Chris. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. It's been a while, guys. I just wanted to piggyback off what Mary said. Sounds like she might be African American. She was speaking about civil rights and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm third generation Mexican. My grandfather was from Mexico and came here legally in the 80s, all the way up to Wisconsin, Milwaukee, worked in a canning plant, got legal under Reagan. And all I would like to say is let's not forget the nuance here. There's a lot of nuance, right? Illegals are doing what millennials and Gen Z don't want to do. They don't want to swing a hammer. They don't want to pour concrete. They don't want to do roofing. They don't want to be outside. They want to play Fortnite and whatever else they're doing, right? Or, whatever. But I think and me as a Mexican, I'm saying this, and I had a Lyft driver yesterday, illegal, Venezuelan, great guy, said the same thing. If you're messing around, you're going to get deported. That's coming from somebody who's illegal, right? Driving Lyft out here. And he's, he loves this place, but he goes, they're making us all look bad. Obviously, they're not all bad, but just to also touch on they're soaking up all our benefits thing. I don't know if you know this, but that's a part of our discretionary budget, like food stamps. It's rolled into like agriculture and things like that. But you can't just say, well, the downfall of American society, the housing market crisis and all this and that, and you can't pin it on illegals. I mean, you could try. I just don't think you're going to win that argument, because it's just like saying, well, when are we going to get rid of, African Americans in Baltimore because it's such a violent city.
Yeah.
That's not
Now,
fair. That's a
interesting thing, Chris, is
generalization.
that and we've had this perspective on both sides, that some people believe that the illegal immigrants that get here and don't commit any further crimes aren't going to be targeted by the Trump administration. But Mary said, in another caller earlier today, they will be because that is the original sin. And I do believe the Trump administration will target them because that illegal crossing is viewed as the original sin. And I believe you're also correct. And I appreciate your call. We've got a call. We got guests coming up, but I want you to call us back another time. I thank you very much for the call. Is when you talked about the idea of the freeloaders, because for me, that's the perception that these illegal immigrants come in here and they get all this free stuff. Then someone has to explain to me by why a lot of times ICE goes into the workplaces and goes into factories, goes into farms and does raids. And Chris is correct about the erosion, some because of deportations, but some because of self-deportations, or people just not showing up to work. I was reading in the last week, the citrus growers in California are talking about between 50 to 75% of their workforce is not showing up. And there are no Americans there at the farms that are asking to pick the oranges and the apples and the grapes and the lemons and the limes. None of them.
Look,
there's a window there that you have to get that stuff off the trees, or that's going to hurt us buying fruit here in the near future.
I'm not going to
of.
discount that we're going to run into challenges, but it's like saying, well, we don't have slaves anymore. Therefore, things are going to be rough on us economically for a little bit. These are people that are living in the shadows. They're not paid the same wages as everybody else. And I don't see it much different than when our country relied on slave labor. There's going to have to be changes that take place here. All right, coming up today, down at the state Senate, we're going to pivot here. There is a bill, SB 25003, semi-automatic firearms and rapid fire devices ban. They're coming after what could be at least 40% of guns sold in the state of Colorado, including just your run-of-the-mill Glock semi-automatic handgun. And to give us some insight, so proud to have Ava Flanell and Leslie Hollywood, the co-founders of We the Second. Good morning, ladies. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Thank you for having us.
All right, let's start with Ava. What are we seeing down at the state capitol today, and why should people be paying attention to this?
So people should absolutely be paying attention to this. This is the most extreme ban that we have ever seen in Colorado, and I would say probably in the United States. This is going to ban way more than 40% of semi-automatic firearms. It's going to ban all semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, and gas-operated semi-automatic handguns, and that have a detachable magazine. That's it. There's no other feature. If it takes a detachable magazine, regardless of the capacity, it is going to be banned. And then it also is going to ban forced reset triggers as well as bump stocks.
It is the most sweeping ban we've seen, and this is way further than just kind of assault weapons bans, and assault weapons being scary guns that they don't like, but they're now moving into just your basic semi-automatic handguns, rifles, those types of things. Now, Leslie, this was originally defeated in the Senate last year, but is starting in the Senate this year, which is a strong indicator that this could pass. What's your read on the state capitol? Are we going to see this ban signed into law?
So I do want to make it clear that this bill is actually worse than we saw the last 2 years here in Colorado. The reason why is because, like Ava mentioned, this is just a blanket ban. If it accepts a detachable magazine, it's banned when it comes to rifles and shotguns. And then with gas-operated pistols, if it can take a detachable magazine, it's banned. So it's a blanket ban. In the last 2 years, and actually in other states like California, and the bans that we've seen there, they actually require like the detachable magazine part plus 2 other features like a barrel shroud or a pistol grip. That language isn't in this. It is a blanket ban. Detachable magazine, semi-automatic, it's banned. So this is worse than the last 2 years. So people do need to understand that. What we have going on this year also, though, has a much greater chance of passing. And the reason why is because when they introduced this bill, which was on the very first day of the session, the Senate actually had 18 co-sponsors already signed onto it, and it only needs 18 votes to pass out of the Senate. Then it has 25 co-sponsors signed onto it in the House. It does need 33 votes to pass in the House, but there's definitely some pickup the Democrats could do there in addition to their 25 co-sponsors. So when they introduced this bill in the Senate with those 18 Senate co-sponsors, knowing they just needed those ones to pass this, that was a huge flex to us on our side. Obviously, they were saying, look, we can do this year and we're going to. And they have made it a really, really big fight.
Talking with Ava Flanell and Leslie Hollywood, co-founders of We the Second. So, I mean, Colorado has just changed. Back in 13, 14, if they had even introduced this bill, they would have been recalled. Now it seems like they just don't care. This thing's going to drive forward. What's the likelihood that Governor Polis is going to sign this?
So we don't know. So either the last 2 years, Polis has publicly come out and said that he doesn't really support bans like this. And again, this was a lesser ban. And I do want to make it clear again, this is actually the most extreme, the most severe gun ban that we've ever seen hit anywhere in the nation. There's only one other time we even saw slightly similar legislation, and it was only rifles, and that was in California. And their own gun-grabbing governor, Jerry Brown, vetoed that bill. That was in 2013. So we actually had Jerry Brown veto a lesser version of this bill several years back. So is Governor Polis going to say, I'm going to actually be more of a gun grabber than Jerry Brown was? That's a really good question. And his language is very ambiguous about this. So I do think I've really been encouraging people, in addition to obviously contacting senators and contacting this committee. Every single communication needs to include Governor Polis so that he understands that this is a gun ban. These Democrats are actually trying to sell this as some sort of a magazine capacity ban. Enforcement. This actually it closes some loophole in their magazine law that they passed in 2013. And Polis was sold that language too. So the more that we can get in there and make people realize this is a severe gun ban, this is massive, the better chance I think we'll have of defeating this. And so I think Polis's pressure needs to come now before it even gets to the point where he'd have to veto it.
Talking with Ava Flanell and Leslie Hollywood, co-founders of We the Second. Now, there's an editorial in the Denver Gazette just over the weekend pointing out that in light of all these gun bills that have been passed since Democrats took total control of the state house, state senate, governors, and basically any statewide elected office, that crime has gone up in Colorado, specifically gun crime. Ava, give us a read on where Colorado stands. I mean, they're passing these laws in an effort to try to reduce crime, and things are getting worse in this state.
Yeah, that's correct. Including, so last year they passed 7 anti-gun bills. And what gets me is all of the bills that they passed last year, they haven't even given them a chance to see if those bills will work. They're already shoving more bills down our throat, and it's just really frustrating. And yet, like you said, they've passed, a ton of bills. Since 2019, they've actually passed 20 anti-gun bills. And as you said, crime is at an all-time high. It just continues to climb. So obviously, these bills, and increasing all of these, increasing these laws, it's not doing anything. And this obviously is not the cause for the crime.
Right, because what we have seen is that law-abiding citizens are the ones that follow the laws. Criminals are not doing that. Now, help me, ladies, understand, we've got a Second Amendment. Is the point here that they just want to push something to the U.S. Supreme Court to have another argument at that level over the Second Amendment? I mean, clearly something like this can't, banning all semi-automatic guns with a detachable magazine like a Glock, which is, I think, the most popular handgun out there, that can't stand the scrutiny of the Second Amendment. We're not talking bazookas, tanks. We're talking what women generally are carrying to protect themselves on a daily basis. So what's the point of this? Is it to get to the U.S. Supreme Court and have that type of challenge?
I think that's a great question, and it's one of those things that we ask ourselves all the time. Like they must understand that as soon as they would pass something like this, it would be immediately met with a lawsuit. And to be honest with you, if it was passed as is, this would be, I mean, I don't even know that this would stand in state court. I think that we would, I don't know how anyone could look at this and even think it's slightly constitutional. Do they just not care? Is this Tom Sullivan's just, big flex, to push back on gun owners? He doesn't even care what happens. The other thing that going into the constitutional issues and the lawsuits that will undoubtedly follow this, shall it pass, is the cost. I mean, lawsuits are not cheap. We're talking, hundreds into millions of dollars. And we're looking at a state budget right now where they're trying to make up a $1 billion shortfall, and they're going to focus on this, which they know is going to be very costly. And going back to what you mentioned just now about crime, what's very interesting about this bill in particular is they're specifically going after shotguns and rifles blanket. I mean, that's just a huge blanket on the shotguns and the rifles. And then some specific, components that are required for the handguns and the pistols. So if we look at the shotgun and rifles and we look at the type of crime that are committed with those, and we look at murder rates with those specific weapons, for example, in 2020, out of, I think it was like 293 murders that took place in Colorado, 8 of them happened with a rifle and 1 happened with a shotgun. So this is going to have a negligible impact on crime anyway. And that would be assuming that this passes and everybody abides by it. Which they won't, but this idea that in their utopian world they did, we would be looking at, I think it's like less than 0.2% of a person per 100,000 population of how we would actually impact our violent crime, or actually our murder rate here in Colorado.
Talking to Ava Flanell and Leslie Hollywood, co-founders of We the Second. Now, organizations are doing their best to try to push back on this. RMGO is organizing a rally today right outside of the Capitol from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. They have national and state keynote speakers, signs, flags, pro Second Amendment swag will be there, and invite you to go down there. And then starting at, I believe, 1 or 1:30 is when the hearing is going to begin and people can testify. For somebody that's never gone down to testify, what is the process? Is it intense? Are they going to be grilled and questioned by lawmakers? Do they need to be experts in the Second Amendment to go down there and share their concerns? What can people do today to try to push back on this?
So they absolutely do not need to be experts. In fact, I would say, if anything, they want you to be terrified and not, sign up to testify, and they make it difficult to do so. If you go to wethesecond.com, we've made it really easy on the homepage. You can sign up to testify. If you can't do that, we understand everybody's working. You can also testify via Zoom, or you can submit a letter. We also recommend that you contact your representatives as well as the governor. But in order to, when you go to testify, what you could expect is eventually when they call your name, it is going to be a long day. You're probably going to wait some time. So definitely make sure that you bring water, some snacks. But when they call you up, it's you're going to give testimony for about 2 minutes. And they have the ability to ask you questions. It's probably going to be uncommon. Be prepared that they could ask you questions, but they typically ask you questions given, on what you've testified on, so what you've said. So they're not going to ask you something out of the blue that you didn't just give testimony on.
Ava Flanell and Leslie Hollywood, co-founders of We the Second, joining Jeff and Bill live. Now, this is somewhat of a larger question, kind of a 10,000-foot view. I don't think that the Democrats' move at the legislative body right now is correct. But to both of you, how would you define, or what do you think are reasonable gun regulations based on what a private citizen should be allowed to own? Where would both of you draw that line and why? Just curious.
So I'll happily go first. I think that's a difficult question to answer. And part of the reason why is because we already have so many regulations in the United States. On the federally, we have over 20,000 gun laws on the books. In Colorado, it's since 2013 when we passed the magazine capacity law. And then 2019, when we really ramped it up, we passed 23 gun control laws. So this idea that we would even be able to have an opinion about what should and shouldn't be allowed is kind of difficult, because personally, my mind never goes there, because all they're ever trying to do is just encroach on our rights more and more. So to me, it's a matter of how do we make sure that hunters can still have access to the tools that they need to hunt and provide their families with sustenance. Because there are a lot of hunters that truly actually hunt to feed their families, especially in the economy like we have right now with inflation and the cost of food. So the fact that we are looking at a bill like this that would impact so many people, whether it's hunters or sports, or just this idea that we should be allowed to have the same arms that our government has, should that ever be needed in the future, which is almost a self-defense argument. It's tough for me to even think about what your question is, because I would have to just think really hard about that. And I will honestly say I couldn't answer that in such a short period of time.
Okay. Ava, your opinion. Where do you draw that line? What do you think is reasonable?
I don't know. I guess I have to agree with Leslie. I'm not really sure. I feel like, we've just constantly played defense, that I haven't really thought too much about it. And obviously anything that they've passed at this point isn't working. And, as we've seen, crime just continues to spike. So I don't even know if anything that we've done or that we could do would even work. I don't think that firearms really are the issue.
But are guns the solution to crime, if we're going to link the two? We can talk about gun crime, but are guns the solution to stopping crime on a personal level, not law enforcement, but personal?
So I could actually speak to that a little bit. So I have a 13-year-old daughter. She's my baby. And I will tell you right now, my 13-year-old daughter is alive today because when she was 8 years old, her father and herself were being attacked by a madman, and her dad had to use his firearm and use lethal force to defend their lives. And if he had not had a gun that day, I can tell you without a doubt, my daughter would not be alive today. So to me, self-defense and using these tools on a personal level as self-protection is very, very near and dear to my heart. And not a day goes by that I don't think about what would have happened that night had her dad not had access to a firearm. So I absolutely do believe that these are self-defense tools, and they do stop crime, not just through lethal force, but even just the presence of a firearm will stop crime. If you're getting carjacked and somebody sees you have a gun, that person's going to run. There's a huge element of that the more that we restrict access to civilians like ourselves, does crime actually increase? And nobody ever really wants to have that conversation when you're talking about the gun grabbing world.
Now, it's interesting. I just want to drop that when I talked to you about rules and regulations and things for guns earlier, you focused on hunting. And I was surprised you didn't bring up the personal protection based on the firearms. And now you've rolled that in. Ava, what do you think? Is it necessarily, do we have to have the firearms in order to deter and defend ourselves from crime? Is that universal?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then let's stop there for a sec. Then can both of you please explain to me why we don't see other societies that have tighter gun controls have rampant wanton crime? Some of our crime levels are higher than those societies. Why, if guns are necessary, do they not have more violent, crime-ridden societies than we do?
So if you're referring to Europe and places like that, this is a really common question that we get a lot. There's a couple of things I want to point out. One, the United States is much, much larger than those countries there. It'd be like comparing Kentucky to something. And so if we were to compare the population and the sizes to some of those different places. The other thing, though, is that if you look at crime rates or murder rates in those countries before they actually did restrict access, it was already much lower. So we have a much more diverse people here. We also, whether we like it or not, we have a lot of guns in this country. And to say that we're going to implement bills like this one that we're dealing with today to restrict civilian access to firearms, it will take generations and generations and generations to ever actually remove guns from the citizens of this country. So, why is it different? We also could look at the fact that in other countries, their murder rates are, in some cases, equal or higher, but they actually use different weapons to commit their crimes or to commit their violence. So part of it's the tool. A lot of it, I think, really just goes to the fact that we try to compare the United States to somewhere like England. And, when you look at size and scope and all of that, it's just apples to oranges. So it's difficult to compare. Additionally,
I disagree. I disagree that it's apples to oranges, because the societies do have the ability to put restraints on them. And I agree with you that the toothpaste is out of the tube, that we are not going to be gun grabbing and taking, and it's not functional. And the reason I'm just talking about this from the 10,000 foot view, I find it interesting that in these conversations on both sides of the aisle, not a lot of people have thought through what reasonable restrictions look like. Not a lot of people have talked about where that line is and what they're comfortable with. And when we get into conversations about personal safety and preventing crime, it does lead into the idea, well, other people do other things, and then we go back to other people can use other stuff. That's true. But a gun is the only commercially available product that is designed specifically to kill as quickly as possible. It's a different level of a consumer product. And we can talk about using it that way. But just because someone else can use a hammer, a car, a knife to kill someone doesn't mean the solution necessarily is gun. I wish we had more time to delve into this. But again, I'm not taking a position. I believe that the reach that the Democrats are doing here in the state right now is wrong. I support you 110%. I think they are overreaching. I think they're incorrect on how they're defining the guns. But I just wanted to have that conversation. And I appreciate both of you engaging in it. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can come back to this later on. But thank you and good luck today. I do support everything you're doing down today at the Denver Capitol. I do believe that the Colorado Democrats are absolutely wrong on this one.
I am all for returning to the Wild West, where we just walk around with guns on our hips. I think
but when you walked into town, when you walked
into
town, they took the guns. That was the rule back then. So you had to surrender your gun when you walked into town.
Tombstone. Hey, ladies, Ava Flanell, Leslie Hollywood, thank you so much.
Thank you a lot.
We'd love to have you back, especially after today's hearing. I think it's going to go late into the night. I hope it does, because if the Democrats want to drive this type of unconstitutional law onto the books, they should be forced to sit there and take it from the American the American people, the Coloradans.
They should,
as they lose their Second Amendment rights. Make them stay up late out there. I'm going to head down to the RMGO rally 11 to noon. I'll be there. So if you're down there, say hi. But you can check out We the Second by going to wethesecond.com.
Yeah, ladies, thank you so much. Go down there and give them heck. I 110% support what you're doing today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. We the Second. Where do you fall on this? Do you think that these are common sense rules that could help reduce crime like the Democrats do? Or is this just another attack on our Second Amendment rights? Because at the end of the day, they're only going to be happy when they have all the guns. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Big day down at the Colorado State Capitol as Democrats are seeking to essentially restrict just about any semi-automatic weapon. Here, the bill defines a specified semi-automatic firearm as a semi-automatic rifle or semi-automatic shotgun with a detachable magazine or gas-powered semi-automatic handgun with a detachable magazine. I mean, that's a Glock. That is anything that's basically not a 6-shooter is going to get banned by these guys. And those handguns are very popular for self-defense. So, I mean, so many places to go in this. Wow, has Colorado changed in the last 10 years? If this thing is going to pass the Senate, because in 13, 14, you lost your job for even thinking about this down at the Colorado State Capitol. So now this thing is probably going to be signed into law. I mean, if you're Jared Polis, what do? You love the mantra of being the libertarian governor. You want to run for president. You probably have to sign something like this to win a Democrat primary for president, and it almost guarantees you'll lose a general election. So what do?
I think Polis is hoping that it dies in the House. That's my thought.
Let's go to the phone lines. Melissa, Denver, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning. I just wanted to say I think the timing of this is absolutely preposterous. The same people that are pushing all these Venezuelan gang members who it's turning out are selling guns and themselves, and then they're going to take away our ability to protect ourselves from these people that they just forced upon us.
I mean, the truth is the only people that obey these laws are law-abiding people. And if you're criminals, you're already disobeying laws. You're not going to go, oh, well, they passed a new bill down at the state capitol. I'm going to make sure I give up my semi-automatic firearm.
Well, and you saw the bust that they just did in the Bronx in Manhattan, where they actually had some kind of bump stocks that can turn like a Glock into a semi-automatic, but they're going to take away a shotgun. I mean, it just seems absolutely ridiculous, at least until we can get this immigration thing taken care of a little bit, because they're still going to get the guns. We're going to have to go to them to buy a gun.
Now, Melissa, I want to ask you as a lady, there's an old saying out there that God didn't make men equal, Samuel Colt did, because a weapon in the hand of a small underweight woman versus a big overweight dude makes her on equal footing. She can now defend herself against this, knowing that semi-automatic handguns, those are guns that you can empty a nine round clip into a bad guy, is going to be taken away from you now. How does that make you feel as a woman?
Well, I'm kind of afraid to carry a gun myself. I think I would probably brandish it at least, but I've got knives and pepper spray, and I just think everybody should, knowing themselves, get what they think that they can handle for their own weapon.
I agree, Melissa, but I think it's going to this is going to affect women, and it's going to affect future purchasers too. So if you already own a semi-automatic gun, you'll at least be able to keep it, and you'll be able to pass it down to your kids. You're not going to be able to sell it. You're not going to be able to buy it. And so, who the biggest new purchasers are of guns? Well, not rock-ribbed MAGA-loving conservatives, but actually progressives. And so this is actually going to hamper their ability, whether they're black, LGBTQ, female, from being able to purchase these types of guns in the future. Melissa, great call. Sure appreciate it. Let's go to Thomas, Denver. Good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. My thought is something that's going to affect everybody regarding the Second Amendment right. This should be on a ballot, for these Democrats to just go ahead and change this for everybody is ridiculous. That's my thought.
Thomas,
like this should be on a ballot.
I think you're exactly right, and I think the reason they won't do that is because it'll be treated like Tabor. Every time the Democrats try to weaken Tabor, take it away, put it on the ballot, it loses big time. And we saw recently that Coloradans were okay with increasing ammunition tax, but a straight type of ban at this level with the types of weapons it covers, I don't think there's a chance that thing passes in the state of Colorado.
Well, just for these guys to even bring this up like this, they should all be recalled. You know what I mean?
Tom, I'm with you. I miss those days in Colorado. Thanks so much for the call.
And you gave us kind of a preview of something we may be talking about next hour, so stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Ohio in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump signing an executive order that will restrict transgender troops from serving in the military. The new order requires Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to end the use of invented and identification-based pronouns, prioritize readiness and lethality in their medical standards, and restrict sleeping, changing, and bathing facilities to one's biological sex. The order is not immediate, but one in which directs Hegseth to implement the policies. It also revokes Joe Biden's previous order that accommodated gender identity in the military and enhances a directive issued last week by Trump revoking a Biden order allowing transgender people to serve in the military. In Trump's inauguration speech, he recognized that there are only two genders, male and female. The Federal Reserve said they're nearly certain to keep its key interest rate unchanged at its policy meeting this week, just a few days after President Donald Trump said he would soon demand lower rates. Fed officials, led by Chair Jerome Powell, have cut their rate for 3 meetings in a row to about 4.3% from a 2-decade high of 5.3%. Trump said in a video address to the World Economic Forum's annual gathering that interest rates should be lower, saying, with oil prices going down, I'll demand that interest rates drop immediately. In Dallas, Christina Ohio, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the assault weapons, semi-automatic, detachable magazine ban that's happening down at the Colorado State Capitol. Ryan Armagos, state rep down there, sent me a text message to let me know he's got a sanctuary office for all law-abiding gun owners and businesses that are there to testify against SB 25003 today. You can rest easy away from the uninformed noise of the anti-gun propagandists in a sanctuary office that welcomes all defenders and sportsmen alike. Coffee and conversations right outside the old Supreme Court where the hearing is. Also noted, though, not fully a sanctuary office in the sense you still can't bring in weapons into the state capitol.
Love Ryan Armagost. It's odd that he's taking the same tactic as Mike Johnston, mayor of Denver. It's weird.
Jeff and Bill Show.
KNUS.
Speaking of our 6 shooters.
Yeah. That is such a fun one. Oh,
it is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump is your president. Let's kick it off. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Could Donald Trump serve a third term as president of the United States? Well, there's one lawmaker in Washington, D.C. that's introduced a resolution just to do that. And in doing so, blocked Barack Obama from being able to serve a third term. How has he done this? And is it possible that it could pass? And would you want it to pass? Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 26 degrees, sunny in Denver. Expecting a high of 46 today. It's going to be a beautiful January day. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
That's pretty frightening, I have a 1-year-old, so it's not something you want to hear.
A concerned Denver neighbor after the DEA arrested 2 people and seized around 130,000 fentanyl pills in a raid at a Denver apartment complex Monday. Officials say both suspects were in the country illegally and had ties to Mexico-based Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels. Investigators also found cocaine, heroin, and meth in addition to fentanyl pills. Drug charges are pending. These arrests come just a day after the DEA raided a makeshift nightclub in Adams County early Sunday morning. And a congressional committee is asking Denver's mayor to testify about the city's abject failure to comply with federal law when it comes to illegal immigration enforcement. But Mayor Mike Johnston has already made the city's role in the process quite clear.
We are never doing ICE's job for them or helping ICE in the process of stopping, detaining, or removing people. That's not our job. Our officers have enough to do in the city. They don't need to be doing federal law enforcement's job on immigration.
Yeah, okay. The letter sent Monday by the House Committee on Oversight and Government asks Mayor Johnston to be in D.C. on February 11th. The mayors of New York City, Boston, and Chicago also received letters from the committee. Johnston fired back in a statement Monday saying congressional Republicans should fix our broken immigration system. Well, that's what they're doing. And they're in the process. They're like a week in. I don't know if you checked. While local mayors focus on running the cities that manage the consequences of their failure to act. Please. Failure to act was the last 4 years, and then 8 years prior to the 4 years before that. Johnston is considering the request to testify. What does this young lady think about what Jeff and Bill have been talking about this morning? She posted it on X.
You want to know something that cringes me as a Mexican American myself? Is when I hear the left say, well, if we're going to deport all the illegal aliens, who's going to pick the strawberries? Who's going to build my house? Legal Americans. That my own family, who is legal, a Mexican American family, if you want to give us some DEI points, can build your house. My grandpa does construction. There are a lot of American skilled people that can do the job. But the only reason why they don't want to do that and want to have illegal workers is because they can pay them for lower wages, which they will accept. And this is just wrong. I have a feeling that during the time when they were trying to ban slavery, you definitely had pro-slavery people being like, but who's going to do the jobs for free?
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything I've promised.
Okay, that was Selena Gomez crying about deportation. The first post was from @AngelsPatriots. Nice post, I must say. President Trump is ordering a freeze on federal aid. A White House internal memo reportedly said the temporary pause will go into effect at 3 o'clock Denver time and allow for agency programs to be reviewed. The freeze will not impact Social Security, Medicare, or direct payments to individuals. All diversity-related programs in the military are subject to an internal review by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. This comes after DJT signed a number of executive orders. One bans those who identify as transgender from serving in the armed forces. Huge week in D.C. John Decker on with Jeff and Billy earlier today.
No one on deck today, but this week, three of the most controversial choices for Donald Trump's cabinet will have their confirmation hearings. Among them, Kash Patel, who's Donald Trump's choice to be the next FBI director. Tulsi Gabbard, that's who Donald Trump would like to see as the director of national intelligence. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., that is President Trump's choice to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Shares of NVIDIA stock are tanking at a record pace. Monday's emergence of a new AI model from China led to the chip maker's stock dropping 17%. NVIDIA lost $589 billion, which is the largest single-day loss in stock market history. Tickets for Super Bowl 59 are some of the most expensive in Super Bowl history. This year, we'll see the Eagles and the Chiefs, of course, a rematch of Super Bowl 57, and the last stop on the Chiefs' hopes of winning 3 straight Super Bowl. Average ticket prices are about $8,000. Okay, since it's Super Bowl 59, let's do a 50-year anniversary of Super Bowl 9 and put Grambling's marching band on the field, please. Playing Barry White's I Can't Get Enough of Your Love. And Jeff figured that one out. He named that tune about an hour ago. Congratulations to him. It's 25 degrees in Aurora, 23 in Lakewood, 26 in Denver. It's Tuesday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very pleasant January weather for Denver in the Front Range for today and tomorrow. Highs will be in the 40s to near 50 degrees or so today. Teens and low 20s tonight, mid to upper 40s with increasing clouds Wednesday. Now, overnight Wednesday into Thursday, the northern edge of a storm in New Mexico will clip Denver with a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday, cloudy and a little cooler. Back to fair dry weather again for Friday and into the start of the weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. Very pleasant January.
Well, should the U.S. Constitution be to serve a third term? One lawmaker says, yes, he's got the plan. I'm going to get to that in just a second. I want to talk to you first about my friend Dan Kaplis with Dan Kaplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy's pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. He's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. So when you show up, you got a real solid guy on the values. But even more than that, Dan Kaplis is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Gets even bigger. Dan is believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is so trusted that he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. You might be saying to yourself, I don't know if I can afford him. Don't worry, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, here's the phone number, guys. You don't want to wait until you're on the side of the road in the accident, dealing with law enforcement, dealing with paramedics. God forbid somebody in your family's hurt. Now you're dealing with insurance and hospital stays and all that. You're going to Google at that point, Dan Kaplis Law. Put it in your phone right now so you can quickly access it. Here we go. 303 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplislaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. So, lawmaker has introduced a joint resolution in Congress designed to allow President Donald Trump to serve a third term, while brilliantly including a caveat that would prevent Barack Obama from running again for the White House. How did he do this? Well, Representative Andy Ogles from Tennessee said the amendment would allow President Trump to serve 3 terms, ensuring that we can sustain the bold leadership our nation so desperately needs. It would require amending the 22nd Amendment, which imposes a 2-term limit on the person of the presidency. Newsweek reporting on these details. Trump has joked about running for a third term during an address to House Republicans shortly after his November election win, when he said, "I suspect I won't be running again unless you do something." Well, down there, they are trying to do that. Here's how it would change, okay? Ogle's resolution would alter the Constitution's 22nd Amendment to read, "No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected to 2 consecutive terms. And no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice." So if it's consecutive, just 2 terms. But if it's not consecutive, 3 terms. Now, there's very small likelihood that this will ever pass because it would require strong majorities in both the House and Senate, which is not going to happen. But, Bill, thoughts on Donald Trump serving 3 terms?
This is shockingly stupid. I mean, ridiculously stupid on a level of just mind-numbingly
so much winning, Bill.
Dumb.
There's so much winning. We got to keep the winning going.
Winning? Didn't he just lose the one to Biden? I mean, winning. He's been in for 8 days. And when this was dropped, 5 days? 5 days, he's done so much winning and changes. And again, this just shows the pure transactional nature of this wing of the Republican Party, where it really is just about power. It's not about principles. It's not about values. It's not about ideals. It's we want to be in control. As I've outlined to a number of our Republican friends here, as far as questions they should be asking the Democrat legislators in our state House, I ask that nationally of Republicans. Are you there to rule or represent? Because this is rule. It has nothing to do with represent. It has nothing to do with standing true to our founding or Constitution or principles or values. This is just about, we found a guy that wins. We want to stay in power. And whatever we have to do to maintain that, we will do, because it is all in the function of being in power. Both the Democrats and the Republicans have done this before. Both of them have claimed a principle and gone back at it if it allows them to stay in power or to move a lever of power. So, yeah, this is phenomenally stupid. It doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell, but it's dumb.
Originalists could point to the fact that these restrictions were not added to the Constitution until much later.
Yeah, but if you're an originalist...
After FDR.
Yeah, but if you're an originalist, why put the separation of non-consecutive? Huh, that's weird, isn't it? Because if you really were an originalist, and that was really the true principle that you were going to be arguing, you wouldn't put in the little BS thing about, but we got to make sure Barack doesn't run again. You wouldn't put that in. If the argument was this was not the original intent, then you wouldn't put in the caveat. The fact the caveat exists shows that any argument about originality is bogus on its face. He is lying through his teeth. This is about, I want Donald Trump to stay in power, and whatever mental and constitutional and legal gymnastics I have to do to get there, I will do it, because the one thing that's most important is fealty to our dear leader. This is blatant hypocrisy, stupid. And I can't believe that he actually said this in public. He should have some other advisors around him somewhere going, yeah, this is really stupid. You really shouldn't do this. You're going to look like a clown coming out here and making this argument. But thank you. It's now given us a topic on the show. I appreciate the public embarrassment. That is so nice of him.
Lots of text messages in on this. I've got the poll up. If you go to x.com/Jeff Hunt, should the Constitution be amended to allow Donald Trump to serve a third term? Now, Bill, you know, the people that I engage with on X tend to lean a certain way.
Yes.
Right? I mean, hard R conservative.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, red-blooded, red meat conservative.
Yeah.
75% saying no.
I appreciate that. That's nice. I appreciate that because I feel like they are holding true to constitutional principles. And I think that's important because, should we do 916? Let's do 916. Okay. Because if the argument, and we've got two of them right now, that we need to go in and change the Constitution, then we can do it by executive order for birthright citizenship. And now we also need to change the Constitution for Donald Trump to be able to run again. Huh. Yeah, let's go back and revisit the first two in that Bill of Rights, because, you know, the Dems are going to be gunning for him. That if the Republicans make the argument, well, since we're in power, we can go back and even through executive fiat change the Constitution. Yeah, I'm just telling you, you better take your guns, get a duffel bag, and bury them in the backyard as soon as a Democrat occupies that White House. Because if you agree with it, he's signing the executive order, and he's going to take your guns.
Lots of text messages coming in on this. George in Westminster. With Mr. Trump, it sounds wonderful on the surface, but anything that can be used against America will be used against America by the left. It's an extremely dangerous precedent to set. Also, I agree with you that they can't get a majority in the House and Senate. Have a blessed week, Jeff and Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
George
Appreciate
always
that.
finishes his text messages very
I
well.
like that. That is nice.
Jay,
Versus some of the others that normally call me names.
Jay from Louisville. Big thumbs down for me. The dude would be so old.
That's a good perspective because, again, and it's an interesting argument because I thought for the last 4 years, it was like, oh, my God, how can Joe Biden be so old and still run the country? And now we're like, ooh, we think maybe a president in his 90s sounds like a wonderful idea. Hard pass for me. Hard pass. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. President in the 90s, hard pass.
I will tell you, though, his energy is crazy because my wife and I participated in just some of the inaugural activities on Monday of last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go back and take a nap. I was exhausted. I was cold. I was tired. I need to take a nap. The dude went all day, then went to the balls at night. It was remarkable. He's got another level of energy. Eric Manning would like to pass a bill that just puts term limits on Democrats.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But the one thing Eric won't do is call the show. Just saying.
Billy, what happens? This is from Gabe. When the roles are flipped, then the Democrats can do what they want Trump to do. God, the Republicans and Democrats are the exact same party.
Yes.
How do people not see this?
Yes, they are. They're the exact same party. And the idea is it's only about the mechanisms of power, that if we can exercise it so that we stay in power, then it's cool. But if it's for the other party, no, that's the most horriblest, awfulest thing in the world. And they're actually anti-American. But if it's for us, I mean, think about this. We're not even 14 days into the first Trump term. And we've got not one, but two proposed constitutional amendments from the people that talked about the Constitution being this sacred document from our founding fathers, as if it was brought down by Moses from Mount Sinai. But now we get to change it.
We're always originalists. We're not opposed to changes to the Constitution. It just has to be within the original spirit of the Constitution. All right. Trump has done more in 1 week than China Joe Biden has done in 4 years. 6135 says, you can see that, and it's only getting started. Reading more of the text because they are coming in hot and quick.
Yeah, they are. It's nice.
Jeff and Bill, this is from Steven. Colorado has the want to create schools as gun-free zones, take firearms from the people while the pipeline of firearms flows from gangs through Mexico into the U.S., remove our rights for self-defense.
The thing is, it doesn't go from
crime.
gangs from Mexico. It goes from America to the gangs in Mexico. That's where the pipeline is flowing. The Mexican gangs aren't flowing weapons into here because the gun rules and regulations inside of Mexico are really, really tight. The pipeline is running the other direction, with all respect. The pipeline for firearms is running from America into Mexico. Again, I'm not taking a position on it one way or the other. I'm just being factual. That's the direction the firearms are going. That's where they go. That's why the cartels are so well armed, is because they're access to our markets.
Jason in Denver, why stop at a third term? Let's let Trump AI hologram rule forever.
See, that's my argument. People poked fun at me for the last couple of years when I keep saying that in some ways Trump is the God King of the Republican Party right now. Ta-da! Now we want to change the Constitution for him.
I just think we're living through the Reagan years again. And look, everyone during those years loved Reagan. And now we're happy and excited about Trump.
And weirdly enough,
have a lot of winning.
And weirdly enough, everyone loved Clinton and everyone loved Obama.
Yes.
Huh. That's weird. So
That's why
are we really reliving
really
that?
A God King
Are
type
we,
of thing.
But are we really reliving it?
Do that.
Oh, fealty. Because I think the bending the knee is different under those administrations, Reagan, Clinton, and Obama versus now. I think it's a different level of fealty. But that's my personal opinion.
For the record, Joe from Louisville, I hated Biden's age and the stranglehold on the Dem Party this past election. Let's go to the phone lines. Brian Arvada, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, guys. Yeah, this is just this guy trolling the dumb Democrats, and they'll bite into it. It'll give them something to go on CNN and CSNBC. See, he's never going to leave office. We told you. The Democrats are just so stupid. They'll buy right into it. And meanwhile, Trump will continue his agenda while they get off track on this stupidity.
So a tempest in the teapot. Brian, much to do about nothing, huh?
Yeah, it's just trolling. That's all he's doing is trolling. We all know that Democrats are completely stupid and out of their minds, and they're going to bite right into it. They're going to go, see, he's going to stay in office forever. He's a dictator. He's totally playing them for the fools that they are.
Brian, who do you, in your mind, takes the reins in really like a year and a half and gets ready for the next presidential election? Is it Ron DeSantis? Is it J.D. Vance? Is it Don Jr. or maybe Eric Trump? Your thoughts?
You know, as of now, it's going to be J.D. Vance, I'm thinking, right? But, who knows how he's been performing pretty good. A lot of people seem to like him. So, yeah, I'm thinking J.D. Vance will take over.
I've been impressed with him, especially the Face the Nation interview he did with Margaret O'Brien or whatever her name is. I thought he did a fantastic job. Now, typically, vice presidents have not performed well at all, making the leap. This is going to be very unique. You have a one-term president. You have a very active, directly confrontational type of vice president. This is going to change how things have been done in the past. So I think, to your point right now, I think J.D. Vance is the lead dog.
Got a question for both of you, Brian and Jeff. And I'm just asking questions. I'm not trying to take a position or anything else. Since we're going to change the Constitution, theoretically, just theoretically, in order for Trump to run a third term or change the Constitution, theoretically, to change birthright citizenship, should we also theoretically change the rule about the president having to be an American citizen? And the reason I'm asking that and the qualifications therein is Elon Musk. Would y'all prefer Elon Musk to be the GOP representative, to have him run as the next possible president? So, Jeff, Brian, what do you think?
Brian, I'll give you the lead on that.
No, absolutely not.
And
That's
why not?
why I don't like these. You have to be born here. I mean, you can't have. That's what I worry about with this anchor baby stuff. You know, you get some Chinese guy, because they play for the long game. They get some Chinese guy born here who's really a communist, and then they just groom him his whole life. So, no, you got to stick with the program.
Manchurian candidate.
But, and then here's the thing, Brian, is, and again, I'm not calling him an anchor baby, but the weird thing in this is that Barron Trump was born in America before Melania was a citizen. She didn't get citizenship until later that year, and then used chain migration to bring her parents over.
Well, yeah, but Trump was a citizen.
Oh, I
so you
understand.
could have a case
Yeah.
where these people get a visa and nobody's a citizen.
Yeah.
and they
Oh, I
come
know.
over here.
That's
So
the
it's
thing
a
that
little
that's
different
the
there.
thing that I think is interesting inside of this. So you would be a no on Elon. Jeff's a no on Elon. Interesting.
Yeah, and look, I'm
That's
not
fair.
opposed
Yeah,
to amending the Constitution. For me, it's about the original spirit of the Constitution. So, for instance, if I could get a balanced budget amendment, 100% would support that, and I think it would make this country better. So it's not like the Constitution's locked and could never be changed whatsoever or amended. Conservatives have always made the argument it's about the original intent of the Constitution.
Yeah. But we remember when we get to the second, first, and they're called what? Those are amendments.
The Bill of Rights.
So I know, but they're amendments. So
Yeah,
the
right.
original intent of the Constitution, we went back and changed it afterwards. So when you talk
No,
about
that
original
was
intent,
actually part of the negotiations of passing. You would not
Yeah,
have
I
gotten
know.
some states to go along.
yes,
if
because
it
of
wasn't
federalism and
for-
federal. Yeah. But the idea
The
is that we're
Bill of
talking about
Rights.
the original intent. We do have the original intent, which is the original founding document that came back later into the Bill of Rights. So we did change it. We did make changes
Right.
to it.
So
Yeah,
I'm not opposed
that's
to
it.
the changes. This
Okay.
is what our founding fathers originally
Yeah.
intended to build this country.
Yeah,
to.
but
Brian,
you're
appreciate the
deciding
call.
where the thanks for the call, Brian. You're deciding where that line of original intent stops, because just for fun, I could make the argument and say it stops before the Bill of Rights, because that's their original intent, and then they changed their minds and added some stuff afterwards. So it's again, I'm just trying. I'm just making the argument. I'm not taking a position. I'm just saying it's interesting because when we talk about originalism, and I'm not throwing rocks at you either. I'm just saying I hear this all the time about originalists, but originalists always decide where they're going to
Sure.
draw the line on originalism, which to me violates the idea of originalism. Because if you're going to draw a line, you're not really about the original intent at the core per se.
I think
but it's
there's
a fun conversation.
Yeah, there's a fine argument
Yeah.
that the Constitution would not have passed without the first 10 amendments. That was part of the negotiations of the states. So they passed it. Then they added the Bill of Rights. And that was all part of the original intent of the founding principles of this country. So I don't see a problem with it. All right. 0459. Anyone who thinks this is a good idea to amend the Constitution to allow for one person to have a third term needs to be deprogrammed. It's evidence of a cult
I like
mentality.
that. Yes, cult. I would agree.
7061. Mexico is the perfect example of the old phrase, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws have guns.
Yeah, but couldn't you also argue then the supply as well, as far as where, because the argument here was once we legalized marijuana, all that was going to spill over into other states as well. So there is also an argument, I know, but I'm saying there's also an argument that given how we are managing our gun laws, there's an issue there as far as because of their proximity, not just the fact that because they outlawed guns, only the criminals have guns, because we have other instances of other societies that have outlawed guns and the criminals don't have as many guns nor as unfettered access to it. Not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying it's a little different.
Hypothetical question 8422. I've got a hypothetical question for you. If they allowed Obama to run for a third term and he could face Trump, that would be like the battle royale.
Oh,
right?
that would be a bloodletting.
Oh
That would
my
be
gosh.
ugly on Trump. That'd be really ugly.
You think so?
Oh yeah, that'd
Oh,
be very
man.
ugly.
No way. I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
are on the decline of Obama's rule in America. I think people
No.
have had enough.
Here's the
of
other
it.
question I got. This is what I think is interesting about the the constitutional amendment. Well, why couldn't? And again, I'm playing into the assumptions and conclusions that we've discussed here on the show that come up from the texters and the callers. The assumptions and conclusions are that during the Biden administration, it was just the third term of the Obama administration, that Obama was sitting in a room and pulling all the strings and getting all the things done. Why doesn't Trump do that? If that really can happen, if it really works and we want a third term, why do we have to change the Constitution? Couldn't you just take, obviously, wherever Obama was, there's obviously some sort of room in the White House, because that's what we were told, that Obama was behind the scenes doing everything in the White House. So why don't they just give Trump Obama's room? Right? They could redecorate it. They didn't put his little Diet Coke button in there. Put a TV in there, a little mini fridge. They could. He could just hang out there and do it.
I think Trump will
I'm
have
just
strong
saying.
influence over that.
I know. I'm just saying that it's interesting that the solution is a constitutional amendment to get the third term, not doing the thing they've been accusing Obama of for the previous 4 years. It's weird that that's not the solution. I'm just saying it's weird.
6329. JD Vance should be groomed as candidate and presidential successor, as should any vote choice. This is a stupid notion. If anything, the term for president should be extended so election campaigns don't consume so much energy. Oh, interesting. They want longer Oh no.
Oh no. And the problem with that is, and here's the problem with that is, the longer presidential term doesn't mean it won't consume as much energy. It's just going to elongate the amount of time that we're running for president. Already we're running for 2 years, which is just stupid. Yeah. And so if you elongate the term,
we run for 4 years.
People,
it kicked off the minute Trump.
Oh, it does. And that's what would happen. That's just what would happen.
Well, text messages are pouring in. This text message line comes right into the studio. Bill and I can both see it. So text your thoughts, 720-819-5115. That's 720-819-5115. Or go old school, pick up the phone and give us a call. That line, 303-696-1971. Look, if the last couple of years have taught us one thing, it's to value the things that you can control, and addressing hair loss is no exception. Our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration can reverse years, even decades of hair loss with their simple, listen to this, 1-day treatment. Your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guarantee. It works for bald spots, receding hairlines, thinning hair, men, women, younger, wiser. Advanced Hair can address many different patterns of hair loss. Advanced Hair's top-rated physicians, like Dr. Tanya Pauls, have changed tens of thousands of people's lives, and now it's your turn. Schedule your free consultation by calling 720-459-HAIR. And to celebrate the new year, you can get special financing, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. That's $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Value the things you can control and start regrowing your own natural hair today. Had many of the men in my family had hair done, and man, it changed every aspect of their lives, because what it did is it brought back a youthfulness. They looked younger, felt younger. And so all the relationships, business, family, personal, romantic, everything changed because of that energy and how they felt about themselves. So check them out. Here's their phone number, 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR, or become inspired with before and after pictures at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. We'll continue with all of your phone calls and texts. You all rock. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Trump supporter czar Tom Homan responded to a viral video of Hollywood star Selena Gomez crying uncontrollably in a now-deleted post on Instagram, apologizing for the deportations.
I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
Homan saying he hasn't deported children. In fact, they're targeting illegal migrant criminals, and he's not sorry.
What happened on our southern border last 4 years is the biggest national security threat this country's seen, at least in my lifetime, because we got over 2 million known gotaways. We got a 600% increase in sex trafficking. We got a record number of terrorists crossing the border on the terrorist watch list. We have 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl coming across the open border. And we're going to enforce the laws of this country. If they don't like it, then go to Congress and change the law.
Others on social media are dragging Gomez, saying, "Where were you when 350,000 children went missing from the border? Where were you when Americans were being killed by illegals? Where were you when cartels were bringing fentanyl across our border?" Say their names, Selena. A recent poll found that 83% of Americans support deporting migrants living in the U.S. illegally who have been convicted of a violent crime, while 43% support deporting all illegal migrants living in the United States. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill, the poll on x.com/Jeff Hunt. Should the Constitution be amended to allow Donald Trump to serve a third term is now no at 72%.
Wow.
So
I'm honestly surprised by
not really moving on that one.
I'm really surprised. I thought this would be a big cheerleading moment for him. That yes, we absolutely, this is the best thing that we could do. And here's a side note. Now I'm not certain he's going to do it anymore, but there was part of me for a while, and again, it's only be like the 24th time that I've been wrong this morning. I had a feeling that at one point Trump would try to declare that he deserves a third term or is entitled to it because the Biden administration stole one from him, that he was going to use the idea of a stolen election being a term that he actually won was awarded to him. And since he has won another one, obviously he should be allowed to, to serve that next term. But he's already floated the idea, I can't do it unless you do something about it. So he's already planted the seeds.
Yep.
Let's see what happens when he gets into that final 2 years.
You know what I heard multiple times in conversations in D.C.
Oh, I'm
at
curious.
like some of these inaugural balls?
Ooh, what?
This is going to blow your mind.
Okay, what? Yeah, I'm waiting.
Thank God Joe Biden won the 2020 election.
Really? Oh.
I heard this multiple times.
Because him being such a failure.
It gave Donald Trump 4 years to build the most aggressive, hit the ground running that we would not have seen if it was just a continuation of his term. That because he spent those 4 years out, he thought more about what his administration would look like, the type of difference he could make, and he's hitting the ground running. People are like, you know what? I'm kind of liking how things turned out.
Oh boy.
Isn't that wild?
That is crazy, especially because the idea being that him spending time to reflect on what he needed in his administration, and he settles on Hegseth and Oz and Patel.
Oh,
and
there's so much winning.
Bunch of clowns.
So much winning.
The best choices are. Here's the other part, though, as I do think that Biden's administration messed it up, because what they should have been doing is not necessarily playing defense against Trump, but defense against the narrative. It was intuitively obvious to even the most casual observer that second day of the Biden administration, immigration was going to be a big deal.
Yeah, right.
They should have focused on it. When they talked about Kamala Harris, and again, I don't care what she the borders are, what she was, I don't care. The issue for me is, not getting down there, not cutting off the narrative, and everyone could see it except for the Democrats, because they didn't realize what the Republicans were doing. They weren't pushing back, and they weren't playing defense against the narrative, and they weren't selling the economy. They were their own worst enemy. And then Joe Biden decided, I like this. I like how this fits. I want to stay, which was one of the worst mistakes they could make. So a series of Democrat mistakes that all could have been avoided. But, it is what it is. And Trump's back in town.
A lot of love on X for Joe, not on X, on our text message thing for JD Vance.
Oh, interesting.
Good morning, Jefferson and William. While I'm a big President Trump fan, I'm looking more and more forward to a Vance presidency immediately following Trump's second term.
Ooh.
The more I hear and see him, the more I am liking him.
Okay, we got to talk about this. We're running out of time here on the show. We got a little bit of time here, but what I'm looking at is, what do we do? Who's going to pick up the mantle?
Yep.
Can JD Vance? Because DeSantis tried and failed.
Yep.
I've seen Rubio tried and failed. We've seen a number of people. Rick Scott tried and failed. So can Vance pick it up, or is Donald Trump such an enigma, such a unique person politically in our history that no one can? Is it like trying to follow John Elway or Joe Montana? Well, not Joe Montana, bad because Steve Young. But is JD Vance Steve Young? Or is he Brian Greasy?
Or do you get the kind of Ronald Reagan and then the wah George H.W. Bush?
Exactly. That's an interesting question. We should talk about that. And I would love to hear from the text messages and the callers. Can J.D. Vance or anybody else in the Republican Party pick up that baton and run? Ted Cruz tried. Tom Cotton tried. No one has been able to yet. Is J.D. Vance the guy that can pull Excalibur from the stone and be the successor to Donald Trump? That's a good question.
Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Campos Law text line at 720-819-5115. So, Bill, I'm scrolling here on X, and it's like every day there's 3 of these posts that go up from Representative Jason Crow about some national television interview he's doing in Washington, D.C. Okay. He just goes like, I literally think his job is just to go from like MSNBC to Meet the Press. He just goes from.
And you're saying this is on the Twitters because I refuse to call it X.
Yes.
So, but you can do it. Yeah.
So he
wait,
posts
does he know,
there over and over
who's
again.
on X? Does he know that? I'm just wondering. Does he? Okay. Continue. Yeah. What's he posting?
He keeps posting that. So I want to lay down a challenge for him because people may not know this. His actual district office, the office closest to the people he represents, is just across the parking lot from the studio.
Really?
So, Jason, we know you love to be on media.
Yeah.
We know you love to have the spotlight and get those interviews and have those conversations and have people watch you.
Yeah.
So we want to invite you, Jason Crow, representative of the district that this studio resides in, to simply walk across the parking lot and join us here in studio. We promise it will be a very fun, even-handed, honest conversation. It's not going to be gotcha questions. We're not going to yell. None of that stuff.
No.
Because we have Republicans and Democrats on all the time. So you know our track record. You know you'll be treated fairly. The gauntlet has been thrown down, as they say. All you have to do, my friend, is walk across the parking lot from the office that resides in your own district. Jason Crow, we hope to hear from you.
And we get pretty good traction on the Twitters. So, I mean, we can help you.
In fact, Jason, I didn't want to bring this up, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
People are liking my stuff when I comment on your stuff more than they're liking your stuff.
So again, we're trying to help you. We're just trying because this could be a larger audience.
What they hear here.
We could help you boost some of your followers. We could help you and expand the voting block that you have if your arguments are so good. And again, we'll treat you fair. But if you think that you have so much to say, stop talking to the nationals and maybe, just an idea, talk to your constituents. Come here, because guess what? 99% of our listeners either going to vote for you or not vote for you, or have someone in their family or in their social circle that can cast a vote for you. When you're on the big giant TV shows, you're talking to a fraction of your potential voting population. We can give you that hand over fist. But first, you got to take up the invitation.
Come on over,
Let's try it out.
Jason Crow. We'll try to make it happen.
It's
All
like
right.
Red Rover. Send Jason on over.
I love it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Bill, I got a question for you.
Yes. So, well, the doctor said if I keep taking the pills, it's going to go away. Yeah.
As our resident Catholic on the show. Here,
Yes.
Okay. I see a lot of posts on X.
I'm sorry. I'm asking for
about
forgiveness. It's a sin. I'm sorry. It's just a rote thing that we do.
Catholics or, Catholic Charities works with illegal
Yeah.
immigrants, all that stuff. We heard from the call, all that stuff. And then Father James Martin, a Jesuit, Jesus's parents had to flee. They were refugees in Egypt, all that stuff. Okay. Right. But help me understand why it's so hard to immigrate to the Vatican City. Like they are not bringing in illegal immigrants to Vatican City. So why are they okay with illegal immigrants everywhere else, but not at the Vatican?
Well, the thing is, that would be mostly constrained based on space and some other things. But the idea being that because you don't open that door doesn't mean you don't open any doors, because the church is global. And also, you'd have to go to where the need is. And so I'm not certain that inside of Rome, there are a whole bunch of people from Central and South America that are trying to get in. I'm not certain that they're necessarily
want to be at the Vatican.
Well, I didn't say want. I said there. The more direct need is there. It's the same reason that you have missionaries throughout all religions, because you go out and you find and you convert and you share the word. It's not the idea of, if y'all are interested in hearing what Jesus said, just come on over here. We'll be waiting for you. Kind of the same thing. It's more of an outreach idea. That, and to be perfectly honest, they like all the money. They like all the money and they want to keep it. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest.
Pretty unique. I've been there. All right.
Is it ever?
We continue the debate all the way up until the closing moments. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader. We are 710 KNUS.